Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a story so old, the cobblestones might as well be dinosaur teeth. Right now, yes, right now, you're standing under an arched gateway worn smooth by centuries of desperate travelers. Let's be real, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is. I want to know who's brave enough to join me in the witching hours. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The archway looms, a mouth of mossy stone that's swallowed better prepared wanderers than you. Your fingertips brush the wall cold, damp, speckled with lichen that glows faintly under your touch. 13 feet tall, same as the entrance to Rome's Pantheon. Fun fact, those old engineers knew how to make a doorway feel like judgment. A breeze licks the back of your neck, carrying the tang of wet earth and something sharper, like rusted iron. You shuffle forward, boots crunching on gravel that hasn't seen sunlight since the Byzantines were still yapping about mosaics. The walls lean closer, their whispers swelling into full sentences. Turn back, they hiss, or maybe it's just the wind gargling through a crack overhead. Either way, your mom's voice it ain't. Up ahead, the corridor forks, left path lit by a single torch, right swallowed by shadows thicker than motor oil. You choose left, because who doesn't love a cliché? The flame gutters as you pass, painting dragon shapes on the ceiling. 5 steps in, you realize the floor slopes downward, ever so slightly, like the building itself is trying to tuck you into bed. A door materializes, oak planks banded with iron, hinges creaking the world's most sarcastic hello. It's unlocked, because of course it is. The room beyond smells like grandmother's, lavender, dust, and the faintest whiff of burnt sugar. Your eyes adjust to the gloom, a circular chamber with a low stone table, a wooden stool, and a key dangling from the ceiling by a silver chain. You snatch the key freezing cold, etched with symbols that squirm under your thumb. Fun fact, medieval locksmiths used to carve secret codes into keys to ward off spiritual intruders. Whether that worked, let's just say historians still argue whether those smiths were geniuses or just really paranoid about their job security. The ceiling groans, a sound like a giant rolling over in its sleep. Dust drifts down, glinting in the half-light. You pocket the key, because when has taking mysterious artifacts ever gone wrong? And notice a mural peeling off the wall. It shows a man in a cloak guiding travelers toward a giant tooth. A draft slithers up your sleeve, your cue to move. The next hallway's floor is paved with tombstones, names worn to ghosts. You step lightly, no need to wake the neighbors. A door creaks open somewhere behind you, spilling a rectangle of buttery light. Slow down, listen. The air hums now, a low, almost electrical buzz that makes your fillings ache. You round a corner and freeze. A spiral staircase coils upward, each step warped into a shallow bowl by generations of feet. The railings polished smooth. Someone's been here recently. Or something. Your hand finds the wall, stone now warm, pulsing faintly. You count 17 steps before the dark swallows the rest. A bell tolls, deep, resonant, the kind of sound that rearranges your bones. It's coming from above or below. Architecture's funny that way here. You press on because what's the alternative? Curl up in a corner and start writing a memoir. Unlikely. 3 more turns, and you're face to face with a doorframe carved to look like snarling wolves. Their eyes follow you, glass orbs, catching the torchlight and winking. The room beyond feels smaller than it should, walls draped in tapestries so threadbare. They're basically spiderweb couture. A 4-poster bed dominates the space, canopy frayed, mattress sunken like a pie crust. On the pillow, a single copper coin, green with age. You flip it, Julius Caesar's profile on one side, a laughing satyr on the other. Quirky, right? A clock chimes somewhere, except it's not a chime. More like a spoon tapping crystal. Midnight, noon, time's a suggestion here. You sit on the bed, springs screeching like angry geese, and notice the dust doesn't settle. It hangs in the air, swirling into shapes. A ship, a crown, a question mark. The floor creaks twice, as if answering. You lie back, boots still on because you're not that trusting, and stare at the canopy. It's embroidered with constellations, or maybe just moth holes. The air thickens, sweet now, like burnt honey. Your eyelids droop, no, fight it, but the room's already blurring at the edges. The last thing you hear, a chuckle, low and raspy, as the door clicks shut on its own. The stones breathe beneath your soles, each crack a throat, humming forgotten hymns. Torch flames gutter as you pass, their smoke curling into shapes too deliberate for chance. Someone once told you medieval masons mixed ox blood into mortar. What better glue than something that once pulsed? Here, the walls taste metallic when you run a tongue over your teeth. Coincidence or confession? Your shadow stretches ahead, a puppet pulled by firelight. It reaches a fork where 2 corridors yawn, left hung with moth-eaten tapestries, right bare stone gleaming like wet teeth. Goat hair insulation pokes from wall cavities, crumbling beneath your fingernails as you brush past. 13th century builders swore by the stuff, said it kept out cold and evil spirits. So far, you're only cold. Echoes hitchhike on your shoulders, boot taps rebounding into a chorus of phantom footsteps. You pause, they pause, a game of auditory hide-and-seek. 3,000 churches used to dot the Rhine Valley, most gone now. Their bell tolls trapped in places like this. A draft funnels through, sweetness beneath the mildew. Marjoram, maybe herb bundles tucked into cracks during plagues to ward off miasmas, doesn't explain the trembling in your gut, the one that has nothing to do with ghosts. Torchlight licks a carved motto above an archway, RESPICE Post Te, HOMINEM memento. Latin's always classier than watch your back, dumbass. Your reflection warps in a dented bronze wall plate, nose elongated, eyes two pits of liquid shadow. Renaissance bankers used these as early security cameras, polished metal, catching thieves mid-swipe. You stare until your face becomes someone else's. A moth bounces off your ear, powdered gold smearing your collar. Follow its zigzag path toward a spiral stairwell, steps uneven, edges rounded by centuries of wrists brushing stone. Watch your head. The ceiling drops lower here, forcing pilgrims into a penitent's hunch. You count 43 steps before the ache in your thighs becomes a protest chant. Halfway up, a slit window offers a sliver of moonlit sky, Venus burning bright through the haze. Arab astronomers called it Al-Azza, a goddess reduced to a point of light. The air here smells of burnt honey. Roman legions carried it as field rations, fermented into something resembling prison hooch. Your stomach growls, beware time-traveling cravings. The melody returns flute-like, but there's an edge like a razor dragged across glass. You press your palm to the wall, feel the vibration skitter through bone. Historians still argue whether these passageways were designed for defense or delusion. Paranoia made manifest in dead ends and kill holes. Dust motes swirl around a grate in the floor, voices rise through it. Snatches of a conversation you almost recognize. A copper bowl rests on a ledge, water rippling with the tremors of your breath. Peer closer. The liquid holds no reflection, just a swirl of indigo and mercury. Someone scrawled Noli Tangere beneath it in what looks like charcoal. Touch it anyway. The surface firms into something gelatinous. Carthaginian healers used similar gels for scrying shame. They didn't leave an instruction manual. You press onward 3 paces, 7, 12, until a sudden drop in temperature slicks your skin with goose flesh. 14th century, nuns wrote of devil chills preceding visions, their inks tinted with crushed lapis and desperation. Your torch sputters once, twice, then steadies. A handprint glistens on the next wall, palm too large, fingers tapering to claw-like tips. Press yours against it. The stone thrums like a plucked bass string. The floor slopes downward without warning, your soles sliding on algae-slick stone. Medieval plumbers would have wept at the drainage here. A rat skitters by, its tail braided with red thread. Venetian merchants did that to mark rodents trained to nibble bedbug nests, pest control before pesticides. This one eyes you with what might be pity before vanishing into a mouse hole lined with human hair. Left, a mural peels from the wall. Crusader ships cresting waves of lapis lazuli, sails sagging under the weight of peeling gold leaf. The seas so blue it hurts, Tyrian purple's trashy cousin. A tiny figure falls from the lead vessel, their cry etched in minuscule Greek letters. Malakas, because sailors transcend eras. You round a bend, and the air shifts, dampness giving way to desert-dry heat. The stones here bear tool, marks from 1,000 chisels, each groove a mason's signature. Workers at Chartres Cathedral carved obscenities into flying buttresses, holy middle fingers for future restorers. Here, the etchings form a spiral, a serpent eating a city. The music sharpens, needles pressing behind your eyes. Ahead, a doorway framed in black oak, grain twisted like muscle fibers. Iron hinges glisten with oil despite the rot everywhere else. Push through, your pulse thrumming against your neck, and find an empty alcove. Cobwebs shiver in a non-existent breeze. The melody curls around your ankles now, source still hidden. On the wall, a single word carved in block letters. Anak. Stoics loved that term, divine necessity, the universe's to-do list. You trace the letters, rough grooves catching your skin. When the first note blooms behind your ribs, low and resonant, you realize the stones aren't just singing. They're teaching you the harmony. The note swells, a cello's growl tuned to the marrow of your bones. Shadows coagulate into a shape ahead, hooded, holding a lantern whose flame burns without flickering. Their robes hem whispers across flagstones worn, concave by centuries of feet. Historians still argue whether monastic orders used such cloaks to hide treasures, or the fact most medieval monks couldn't sew a straight hem. Lantern light pools around your boots, black iron lattice throwing spiderweb patterns on the floor. You smell beeswax and bitter almonds. Rest awaits. The figure murmurs, voice like parchment smoothed under a palm. Their free hand opens, revealing a key strung on a chain of vertebrae. Norse shamans wore similar tokens, claimed they unlocked doors between worlds. This one's teeth look suspiciously human. 3 locks hang from their belt, 1 brass, 1 wood, 1 clouded glass. The glass key glows faintly, shadows moving inside like eels in a jar. Venetian alchemists once swore glass could trap moonlight for later use. The keeper tilts their head hood, swaying as if filled with wind rather than flesh. The hostelry honors its guests twice, once at the threshold, once at the grave. You pretend that's comforting. They glide past, you follow, because not following feels riskier. The lantern's light stretches your shadow into a Giacometti sketch. Your guide pauses at a door, so warped it resembles melted chocolate. Inserting the bone key, they whisper, "Hic lucet est ubi mortui habent somnire." Rough translation, Arabic for the actively decomposing. The door opens into a vaulted chamber. Cots line the walls, each draped in linen, yellowed by decades of candle smoke. A jug of water sits beside a clay bowl of figs, their skins wrinkled into topographical maps of regret. You point to the blackened ceiling beams. Original. The keeper's chuckle rasps like a match striking. Charred during the Council of Constance, debaters got heated over heresy and duck a L-orange. Historians know the 1414 summit resolved 3 rival popes. They're less sure about the poultry. They point to a corner cot, threadbare, but heaped with quilts. Sleep here unlocks what waking buries. You notice the beddings embroidered with symbols, Agam script tangled with Coptic crosses. Someone stitched a tiny parrot into the border, its beak open mid-squawk. Old Norse traders brought African greys to Iceland as party favors. Fossilized feathers still turn up in Reykjavik backyards. The lantern dims, their face finally visible. No eyes, just hollows brimming with that same unblinking flame. Their smile shows teeth filed to points. Ask your question. You glance at the bone key. What happens if I lose the key? Keys are for those who fear closed doors. They gesture to your hands. You're already clutching the room's iron latch. When did that happen? The metal thrums, a subsonic purr. Byzantine engineers embedded cathedral doors with magnets, said they repelled sinners. You're either saint or placebo. The keeper retreats, doors sealing behind them without a sound. The lantern's glow lingers in afterimage streaks. You lie back, mattress crunching like dried hay. A moth lands on your wrist, wings patterned with a bioluminescent spiral. 17th century sailors mistook them for fairy lanterns, steered ships into reefs, chasing their glow. Somewhere below, water drips in triple time, plink plink plunka. You count breaths, 14, 23, before noticing the ceilings crawling with painted stars. Crushed malachite greens and azurite blues, pigments smuggled from Afghan mines on donkey back. One constellations shaped like a laughing pig. Egyptian priests drew upside-down skies on tomb ceilings so gods could view them correctly. This hog winks at you. The quilts pressed down, weighted with something denser than down. Saxon burial shrouds often held pebbles in their hems to keep corpses anchored during resurrection. You sink deeper, caught creaking like a ship in high swell. A taste floods your mouth, burnt caramel and myrrh. Frankincense traders chewed resin to stave off thirst, their teeth crumbling to nubs by 40. Silence folds around you, not absence of sound, but the hush of a bell's final vibration. Your eyelids dip, the moth's spiral blooms across your vision. Just before sleep drags you under, 3 words drift through the keyhole. Remember the fig pits. The fig pits dissolve like sugar on your tongue. Leftover sweetness turns to grit between your teeth. The chamber hushes around you. Candles sprout from a low stone table, flames trembling toward the ceiling. They bow like courtiers, each wax pillar scarred with fingernail grooves. Medieval monks molded beeswax tapers for cathedrals, never admitting they looted hives from drunk bears. You collapse onto a cushion stuffed with crushed lavender. Purple buds poke through the linen, pricking your thighs. Smells like grandma's sachet, if grandma were a Venetian apothecary who moonlighted as a forger. A drip echoes left, right, left, water striking stone in perfect thirds. Carthaginian engineers designed aqueducts to mimic heartbeat rhythms, claimed it soothed rebellious colonies. You try sinking your breath. Inhale on plink, exhale on plunka. The keeper's lantern winks out, leaving only candlelight pooling in the table's carvings. You lean closer. Glyphs depict owls carrying scaled fish. Mesopotamian sleep tablets showed similar scenes Interpreters still fight over whether they're metaphors for dreams or bad takeout menus. Your thumbnail traces a fish's spine. The stone warms, writhes, goes inert. Something wet brushes your ankle. You jerk back. A mossy rug slithers toward the center of the room. It reshapes itself, knots forming a lotus, vines braiding into a mandala. 6th century Tibetan meditation. Mats allegedly moved on their own. Pilgrims swore they fled if you snored. This one squelches like a satisfied cat. A clay carafe appears, dark liquid swirls inside. Thick as ink, you sniff charred honey, fermented juniper, starlight filtered through oak. Gaulish druids brewed hallucinogenic mead in hollowed-out menhirs. Their recipe involved 8 full moons and 13 lies. You take a sip. It takes a sip back. Shadows thicken between the candles. The flames aren't dying. The darkness is learning. You slump sideways, checking if the floor's real. Cold marble presses against your cheek, veined with gold that ripples like river current. Byzantine emperors paved throne rooms with mercury-swirled stone, a flex that killed 3 guilders and a very confused parrot. The drip song shifts. A 4th note splashes in, dissonant and green. You spot the source, a crack in the wall, oozing briny water. Atlantis enthusiasts would write sonnets about this. You dip a finger, salt crusts your skin, glinting like mica. Roman bathhouses added seaweed to steam rooms, patrons left smelling like discounted Poseidon. A moth flutters into your peripheral vision, different from the bioluminescent one. This specimen's wings mirror the rug's lotus pattern. It lands on the carafe, proboscis, sipping in time with the drips. Your head lolls, suddenly too heavy. 19th century surgeons prescribed moth watching for hysteria. You finally get the appeal. Candle smoke coils into letters above the table anodyne. Not a word, a command. Your limbs soften, muscles unknotting like yarn. Assyrian diplomats drank poppy elixirs before peace talks. Explains their treaties' questionable punctuation. The rug blooms wider, petals cushioning your hips, your shoulders. The nape where stress nests. You blink, the ceiling melts away, replaced by a star-flecked void. Constellations pulse, a squid here, a broken lyre there. Scholars still bicker over whether ancient astronomers actually saw these shapes, or just really needed a hobby. A comet streaks past, trail smoking into the words Somnus Itrum. You sneeze, the stars scatter like roaches. The carafe refills itself, liquid tilts toward your lips without spilling. Newtonian physics sulk in the corner. You drink, every swallow erases a year's worth of 2 AM doom scrolls. The keeper's voice trickles through the wall. Rest isn't a place. It's a permission slip. Silence swells, not empty, but brimming. You distantly recall owing taxes. The thought unravels, carried off by a breeze smelling of bergamot and buried parchment. Ottoman scribes stored documents in citrus-oiled sleeves. Silverfish refused to nibble the margins. Your last conscious breath fogs the air, The mist twists into a chess piece. A pawn, how fitting. The candles snuff themselves one by one by one until only the drip remains. 3 beats. 4. Then even the water forgets to fall. The broth steam curls into your nostrils, rosemary and burnt onions and something older. Your hands cup the clay bowl, fired in a kiln that once baked cuneiform receipts for sheep. 4th century Persian inns served similar stews. Poor travelers got an extra ladle if they could recite a poem. You fail to rhyme moon with spoon. The broth remains mercifully hot. First sip, charred oak against your tongue. Second sip, caramelized shallots from a Phoenician trader's failed garden. By the third, you're 7 years old, granddad's cabin. Wool socks damp from creek water. Venison stew bubbling as he hums off-key hymns. Historians still argue whether rosemary in broth actually aids memory or just covers the taste of spoiled meat. A crust of barley bread appears toasted golden, glistening with olive oil. You rip it. The sound echoes through the chamber like a door unlocking. Byzantine bakers added ground walnut shells to their loaves, a gritty flex to prove they could afford dental care. The broth sizzles where drips hit the bowl, each bubble bursting into a tiny choir. Your pinky grazes the table, stone worn smooth by elbow grease and existential dread. A fleck of parsley floats by, you chase it with a spoon. Victory tastes like bitter greens and hubris. Roman chefs once stirred crushed pearls into soup for VIPs, digestion optional, bragging rights eternal. The bowl refills thicker now, studded with lentils that pop like minuscule fireworks. You recall a bonfire on a Cretan beach, ashes swirling with fish bones. A stranger strumming a lyre out of tune. 17th century sailors believed lentil stew warded off krokens. You count 18 pulses in your next spoonful, an accidental prayer against things with too many tentacles. A fig materializes, split open, its innards glittering with crystallized honey. You bite, the sweetness dissolves into a tang of fermented pomegranate. Mannone winemakers buried amphorae under fig trees, set the roots leached metallic notes into the vintage. Your jaw unclenches, a tension you forgot to name. Shadows congeal into a shape across the table, a faceless diner mirroring your movements. Their spoon scrapes the same rhythm. You eat faster, they match you. You slow, they linger. Ottoman palace etiquette demanded guests mimic the sultan's chewing speed, tragic for the slowpoke who wanted seconds. The broth surface stills, reflecting a ceiling, now domed and painted with zodiac signs. Your constellation, the tipsy cupbearer, winks from between Leo's paws. Astronomers once claimed zodiac soup bowls influenced digestion, hence the term starving. You snort, noodles vibrate in apocalyptic laughter. A goblet of mulled wine appears, cinnamon sticks poking out like antlers. Sip it. The heat spreads through your ribs like gossip in a bathhouse. Hangovers guaranteed. Anglo-Saxon healers prescribed spiced wine for melancholy of the innards. A diagnosis modern therapists might rebrand as existential ennui. Your knuckle brushes a salt cellar at tips, scattering grains that hiss against the table. They writhe into cursive, eat, remember, forget. Frankish kings seasoned feasts with salt mined by prisoners, each crystal a tiny act of spite. You lick your thumb, regret it immediately. The faceless diner vanishes, leaving their spoon suspended midair. It clatters down, handle pointing toward an archway, oozing plum-colored mist. Your last bite of bread turns to ash, but the good kind, like campfire remnants that smell of possibility. Candle wax drips onto the table, forming a tiny model of your childhood home. The front door creaks open, smoke curls out, smelling of pine and burnt toast. You blow IT Chinese letter into a puddle, taking 3 grudges and a middle school humiliation with it. The broth's gone cold, oil slicking the surface like a rainbowed scar. You drink it anyway, vowing to finally write that autobiography or a strongly worded Yelp review. Carthaginian merchants invented food criticism. Their 1-star reviews were etched into offenders' tombstones. A grape bursts between your teeth, its juice tastes of a summer you swore never to revisit. Sunburn on your shoulders. A bicycle with a warped wheel. Your mother's laughter caught in a downpour. Neolithic farmers buried grapes with the dead, hoping sweetness outlasted decay. Your elbows sink into the table. The stone softens like overripe fruit. The chamber whispers a lullaby in a dialect your DNA half recognizes. Linguists identified 17 dead languages through folk song, misheard in dreams. Your chin nods, broth drips onto your tunic, staining it the color of forgiveness. The last sip tastes of nothing, then everything, then nothing again. Sodium from a Carthaginian salt flat. Rainwater collected in a Visigoth's helm. Tears from someone you'll never meet, boiled down to their essence. You exhale, the bowl cracks cleanly in 2. Silence folds over the table, broken only by your pulse in your ears. Slow, slower, the keeper's voice floats through the cracks in the clay. Every meal is a funeral for what you've consumed. You're too full to disagree. Shadows peel back, revealing a door shaped like a keyhole. Your stomach growls, an epilogue. The candle finally dies, but the fig's aftertaste remains stubborn as a half-remembered kiss. You push through the keyhole-shaped door hinges, screaming like a cat trapped in a lute. Dust motes swirl, each one a frozen exhale from readers long gone. Shelves climb into shadows, volumes bound in what might be actual moth wings. Your fingertip grazes a spine. It vibrates, a bass line thrumming through your knuckles. Medieval scribes mixed iron gall ink for manuscripts. It's why those pages outlasted empires. The rumor says the Vatican's secret cookbook includes ink made from Pope-approved champagne. Don't lick the pages. A bookshelf yawns open, revealing aisles that twist like a nautilus shell. You step in, the floor tilts, tetrahedron. A librarian materializes, hooded index finger pressed to where lips should be. Their shush echoes through your molars. Historians still argue whether the great library of Alexandria smelled like papyrus or fried calamari. You mutter, just browsing. The nearest book slams shut indignantly. Titles glimmer the calculus of sparrowflight, how to disappear completely in 3 easy plagues. One tome pulses, its cover etched with a sleeping hydra. You flip it open, musical notes flutter out, sticking to your sleeves like lint. 18th century Bavarian choirs swallowed sheet music before performances, claimed it improved resonance. The hydra snores. Its middle head drools a puddle of "is that alphabet soup?" A reading nook appears, armchair upholstered in debate team blazers. Sit. The chair adjusts. Your spine aligns like a 7th century monk's. A footnote crawls up your ankle for prior example. See chapter 12. Regrets woven as nursery rhymes. You kick. It scuttles under the rug. Light filters through vellum windows, staining the air sepia. Your shadow stretches, elongated and fidgety, copying gestures you haven't made yet. A scroll unfurls at your feet, map of a city built entirely of abandoned New Year's resolutions. Archaeologists found a tablet near Babylon listing, "Stop adopting mastiffs" as goal 42. You step over Learn Lydian. It sticks to your heel like gum. The Hydra book's snoring syncs with your breathing. Pages riffle, each illustration more suspect. Here's Cleopatra testing eyeliner on a very patient sphinx. There, Genghis Khan's yoga instructor demonstrating downward-facing horse pose. You snap it shut. The hydra belches a G-sharp. A ladder leans against philosophy, the soggy years. Climb rungs creak in iambic pentameter. At the top, a single folio titled Your Life, expanded edition. Open it, the first page shows you reading this sentence. Edges blur text, rewriting itself as your pulse quickens. Early Buddhists debated fate reading. Did it cause destiny or just spoil the plot? You toss the book. It becomes a paper airplane mid-arc. Something taps your shoulder. Turn, the librarian holds a ledger titled Overdue Souls. Their quill hovers, waiting. You show emptied pockets. They scribble interest waived. For now, in glowing vermilion. Footsteps echo above, heavy, deliberate. Glimpse a figure through shelves. 8 arms, each cradling an encyclopedia. The multi-limbed scholars of Kerala, entry, winks nearby. South Indian scribes dictated 4 manuscripts at once, if you believe the drunk half of academia. A stained glass window depicts owls teaching calculus to bewildered saints. Press your palm to it. The glass liquefies, cold and sweet as persimmon juice. Your hand returns sticky with equations. Wipe it, numbers rearrange into 1323 lottery tickets, all losers. Floorboards groan. A trapdoor swallows your left foot. Peer down, a sub-basement where books devour other books. Mythology for beginners bites intro. To tax law pulp drips like amber syrup. Maya codices were ritually killed, folded, and buried to release spirits. You yank free. The trapdoor snaps teeth at your shin. The librarian's shush intensifies, now a subsonic growl. Your right ear goes numb. Retreat backward into a shelf labeled regretful memoirs. Volumes shuffle, making space for one titled Yours, unedited. The spine prickles, you pull it. The library inhales sharply. 3 pages in a sketch of your first grade teacher mid-sneeze. Text claims she smuggled greyhounds across borders. You'd believe it. Flip further, a chapter called The Year You Became Invisible. Words squirm, redacting themselves as you read. CIA censors have nothing on this. A bookmark materializes, silk embroidered with abandon here. You tuck it between pages, the book size defeated. Your palms sweat ink, blotting the nearest page with Rorschach moths. The air thickens. Paper particles cling to your throat. Cough, a origami crane flies out. Follow it, wings glinting with illegible footnotes. It lands on a pedestal, pecking at a crystal case. Inside, a scroll sealed with your kindergarten handwriting. Break the wax. It smells of peeled crayons and apologies. Unfurl, a stick figure mural of you riding a tricycle through the Titanic's ballroom. Historians still argue whether Titanic's band played hymns or ragtime as she sank. Your 3rd grade self got extra credit for that theory. Shelves collapse, rebuild themselves, now alphabetical by grief. You spot quarrels, quiet between kisses, stolen and raccoons, judgmental. Everything you should have said at Grandpa's funeral waves. You pretend not to see it. Moonlight bleeds through the ceiling. Pages glow, ink lifting like reverse rain. Letters stick to your skin, MS and SS, and one perplexing AE, Anglo-Saxon, runes cured warts, if recited backwards. Yours spell moose, doubt it'll help. The librarian watches, quill poised. Your stomach growls. The sound reverberates through the decimals. They nod, shelves part, revealing an exit titled epilogue. How predictable. Step through, the air pops, suddenly crisp with pine resin. Behind, pages flutter, a chorus of come back soon. You don't turn. The taste of moth scales lingers, bitter and ancestral like uncles who quote dead poets at weddings. A door creaks, its wood warped into a question mark. You step through, mothwing, grit falls from your lashes. The library's hum fades, replaced by water whispering over stone. Vines drape the ceiling, blooms luminescent as glowworm silk. Their roots snake through mortar cracks. Egyptian nobles once threaded jasmine through their wigs for garden parties. You inhale damp soil and something sharper, regret marinated in rosewater. Cobblestones tilt, guiding you toward a marble fountain. It weeps into a basin carved with forgotten constellations. Dip a hand, the water's colder than a pharaoh's tomb door. Historians still argue whether the hanging gardens of Babylon pumped water via spiral screws or stubborn prayer. The fountain chuckles, splashing your sleeve with droplets that evaporate as haikus. Overhead, a vine uncurls, offering a pear. Bite, the flesh tastes of attic dust and middle school crushes. Seeds rattle inside, each one shaped like a tiny coffin. Victorians buried loved ones in glass terrariums, roots growing through their ribcages. You swallow hard, the aftertaste lingers like unread voicemails. Moss blankets benches, their iron frames bent into cursive. Sit, the M slots between your shoulder blades. A firefly alights on your knee, its abdomen spelling M-E-N-E, M-E-N-E in Morse. You flick it, it zigzags away, rewriting its message to TIPS only. The fountain's chant deepens, water swirling into miniature whirlpools. Peer closer. A fleet of paper boats battles the current. Their sails bear family crests, one stitched with your initials. Pirates in the 1500s drank seawater mixed with lemon juice, thinking it warded off curses. A boat capsizes, its crew of silverfish salute as they sink. Wind stirs, petals detach, hovering like failed confetti. Catch one, its veins pulse cerulean. Medieval poisoners crushed similar blooms for truth serum that mostly killed people. The petal wilts, leaving your palm stained judicial purple. Stone pillars frame a path lined with topiary, each bush trimmed into famous lovers' mid-embrace. Antony and Cleopatra's hedge version has aphids swarming her marble chip eyes. You snap a twig. It bleeds sap smelling of old library finds. Ahead, a sundial missing its gnomon. Instead, your shadow's head pins the center. Check the time. It reads too late for APOLOGIS. 17th century clockmakers hid messages in gear teeth, usually taxes owed or mistress names. You kick a pebble. It arcs into a hedge, scattering sparrows, bred from pocket lint. The fountain's murmur shifts, a tune your mother hummed or misremembered. Coins glint below, King George IV's profile, warped by algae. Throw a button. It floats, refracted into 39 identical lies. Archaeologists found a well in York filled with Roman-era boots, still laced. Light shifts. The ceiling blooms now mirror Van Gogh's Starry Night if he'd painted it during a panic attack. A vine snakes around your ankle, gentle, leading you toward a grove. Petals crunch each step, releasing trapped moonlight. You squint. 96% sure moonlight was marketed as diet powder in Edwardian times. The grove opens, revealing a table set for one. The teacup steams, liquid reflecting galaxies. Sip, it scorches, tastes of key lime and catacomb air. English garden hermits were paid to live ornamental lives in fake ruins. Napkins folded into your worst fears, a swan, a middle manager, a straight line. Fireflies swarm, forming an arrow, right arrow. Follow, they lead to a willow tree. Its trunk split, housing a door no taller than your ribs. Kneel, hinges groan, open it yourself, or risk eternal lawn gnome status. Inside, a nest of letters you never sent. They rustle, asking for a consolation prize. Light one with a firefly. It flares, ash spelling worth it before dissolving. Wind gusts, extinguishing the flame. The garden stills. Even the fountain holds its breath. A firefly spells flee, then dissolves into a punctuation mark you can't place. You stand knees popping like Orville Redenbacher's ghost. The exit glows, an archway woven from raspberry canes. Step through, thorns snag your sleeve, leaving a constellation of tiny surrenders. The archway's thorns withdraw, raspberry scent clinging to your scratches. A woolen sigh brushes your neck. The blanket drapes itself mid-step. Its fibers hum, sun-baked flax, from Nile Delta harvests forgotten before cursive existed. Flax linen was medieval Europe's premium bedding. Peasants stuck with hay-stuffed sacks that sprouted mushrooms. You sneeze, the blanket tightens, motherly scolding without words. Shadows thicken, the room's single fireplace coughs ash. Flames gutter dying like disco in a monastery. Your toes graze a rug, woven from thunderstorms. Static lifts arm hairs. A cushion nudges your calves. Its embroidery depicts ducks playing poker, with N.A. written in thread. Napoleon's sister allegedly napped under a quilt stitched with her ex-lover's initials, flammable choices. A tin cup materializes, steam coiling into a question mark. Sip chamomile undercut with cinnamon and existential doubt. 17th century insomniacs guzzled laudanum-laced honey wine, called it night oil for the soul's lamp. You gag, the cup refills. Liquid now tastes of velveteen and airbag warnings. Floorboards creak weight shifts nearby. No footprints dent the dust. The blanket tucks itself tighter corner, folding into a hospital's perfect miter. Tools clink, unseen hands polish the mantle's gargoyle with lemon zest. Renaissance servants hid in castles' walls, called necessary rodents by posh types who hated eye contact. Fire reduces to coals. Their glow outlines a lullaby's sheet music on the ceiling. Hum the first measure your breath makes the notes shiver into crow's feet. A pillow slugs your shoulder, feathers leaking ashy snowflakes. Pre-industrial sleepers prized goose down so much they wrote sestinas about stubborn birds. Your pinky touches something cold, a key resting on the armrest. Teeth marks riddle its bow. Victorian skeleton keys were often nibbled by toddlers teething. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants slept 8 hours straight or nursed 2 restless vigils like monks. The key vibrates. Its whispery buzz translates to ask again after REM cycles. Darkness pools, now inkier than a raven's therapist. Shapes solidify. A coat rack imitates a willow. A footstool does jazz hands. You blink, they snap back to furniture form. Poorly, the blanket slips, slithers to the floor, then levitates sheepish before remounting your shoulders. Wind howls through a non-existent window, extinguishing the final ember. Blackout, yet your hand glows faintly, palm etched with bioluminescent veins. You flap it, casting shadows like moth-eaten lace. Cold War scientists toyed with glowing skin for espionage, abandoned it when spies kept tripping over cables. The key heats, reddening to forge fresh intensity. Toss it, it clatters, rolls, stops at a door, that definitely wasn't their precip. Grain patterns form a winking owl, judging your life choices. Push the door yawns, revealing a closet packed with hourglasses. Sand inside swirls backward, half labeled your patience, others there, MALARKY. A bell tinkles, high and lonesome, a sheep's lament. The blanket herds you toward a four-poster bed, draped in spider silk curtains, thread count higher than your credit score. Mattress swallows you, memory foams, great-great-grandpa, goose grease, and complacency. Medieval sleeping cupboards were coffin-sized nooks. Aristocrats adored the morgue chic aesthetic. Something pats your head 3 times, each colder than the last. Your eyelids gain quarry weight. Bye-bye synapses. Hello void with better acoustics. Pillows puff, forming a fortress against the 6 a.m. garbage truck of consciousness. The hourglass sand hisses, midnight's a construct, as the key dissolves into a snore symphony. You wake to cobwebs of dream clinging like cling film. The bed shrinks, wooden slats creaking in Morse code for you've overstayed. A draft coils around your ankles, cold as a tax collector's laugh. It tugs you toward an archway choked with ivy. Beyond awaits a staircase spiraling like DNA, unraveled by bad news. Steps gleam wet with condensation, or lichen tears. You opt for poetic ambiguity. First, slab groans underfoot, its indentations spell Hirnui. Second, step Wybert. Third, Sakrat Almujiza. Each name grates like gravel against your soles, a tongue-twister buffet. 10th century Norse traders etched titles into their doorsteps, believing words gained power when trampled. Try memorizing Sakrat. It dissolves faster than trust at a family reunion. 7 murmurs through your heel, a glyph of interlocked geese, webbed in Cyrillic. Historians still argue whether spiral staircases clockwise twists helped right-handed swordsmen or just made architects seasick. 13's engraving pulses faintly, medieval asylum ink, for oaths that yellowed if the signer lied. Your thumb skims it, warmth spreads, no clue what you've sworn. 21 tilts, nearly spilling you into the chasm beneath, below clinking like a chandelier's autopsy. Above, slabs relearn geometry mid-step. Roman bathhouses hid stairwells lined with lead. Slaves shuffled through to refill lamps, unseen. Count aloud 34, 35, then lose track by 48. Numbers unravel like a ball of yarn, batted into hell. 50-something blurs into braille gibberish, knees, humming Gregorian chants monks gargled before vespers. A draft hisses, smelling of overdue library scrolls and unwashed astrolabes. 30 years back, an Oxford dawn claimed haunted pub staircases were covert sundials. Peer review laughed into wheezing fits, 88's missing, gap wide enough to lose a childhood regret in. Leap it, tile shards snagging your sleeve, a scar you'll misremember as a trophy. Air thins, oxygen's on strike. Renaissance nobles funded perpetual motion staircases to avoid leg day. Prototypes ended in hurled protractors and gout. The final step floats, mirror bright, reflecting you 40 years older. Tread anyway, it wobbles like pudding in a quake. Byzantines thought sacred stairs could detect heresy. Sizzling feet meant dungeons. Yours stays stubbornly cold, skeptic, or just bad circulation. The spiral vomits you into a hexagon room, walls papered with star charts, revised by drunks. A teacup steams on a lone chair, scented with liquid velvet and betrayal. Drink, the stairs dissolve, exits reduced to wall licking. Welcome to Architecture's Hotel California, scritching echoes, rats debating Plato, or Morse coding obscenities. T dregs spell surrender DOROTHY, but you're out of slippers. A floorboard creaks, universal for this, wasn't here before. Poke it, adulthoods, just poorly considered prods anyway. Moonlight bleeds through a high window, your shadow waves with someone else's hand. Sleep sidles closer, stage whisper of p't, the bed's this way. Stairs. What stairs? Memories already editing, keeping the calf burn, dumping the rest. The mural unfurls across the wall, continents stitched with tarnished silver thread. Oceans ripple cobalt under your gaze. Tiny ships cresting waves, no taller than your pinky nail. One caravel lists sideways, sails patched with moth-eaten velvet. You blink, its prow now points west instead of east. Cartographers during the Age of Discovery often faked coastlines to dupe rivals. Portugal's Cantino planisphere once showed phantom islands stocked with non-existent cinnamon groves. Your shadow stretches across the Pacific, silver coasts dimple under its touch. A galleon capsizes, miniature sailors cling to the rigging. You lean closer, their shouts taste of brine and desperation. 16th century Venetian mapmakers hid insults in uncharted regions. One labeled a competitor's hometown. Here be the emperor's flatulent uncle. The Indian Ocean shivers, coral reefs bloom where your breath falls. A mountain range crumples like discarded parchment, peaks flattening into plains. Historians still argue whether medieval Mappy-Mundi were navigational tools or just rich men's sermon props. Your fingernail traces the Nile, its delta branches into frayed thread. The river twitches, a crocodile sketched in iron gall ink snaps at your cuticle. Ptolemy's coordinates float in the margins, numbers smudged by what might be tea stains or ancient drool. You step left, the entire hemisphere lurches. Antarctica grinds against Patagonia. Penguins topple into a newly formed strait. British explorers once packed snow globes as diplomatic gifts. Inuit elders used them as paperweights for treaty scrolls. The mural groans. A crack splits the Silk Road. From the fissure wafts the scent of camel dung and bergamot. A parrot-shaped patch of the Caribbean detaches, flapping toward the ceiling. It sheds indigo dye, splotching your sleeve like a Rorschach test. Dutch navigators tied parrots to their wrists to practice knot tying during calms. The bird circles twice, dives into the Baltic Sea. Ripples spread, shipwrecks rise breaching like mechanical whales. You sneeze, The Sahara flips into jade-green grassland. Carthaginian trade logs described emerald deserts. Experts think they meant mirages or bad translators. Timbuktu's gold domes melt into dunes. Your reflection warps in the molten metal. A city street lamp briefly flickers where your left pupil floats, then winks out. The ships multiply, now swarming like ants on jam. A brigantine rams your thumbnail, splintering into bronze shards. Archaeologists found Ming Dynasty vessel nails near Zanzibar, rusted into abstract art, mistaken for modern sculptures. You press a palm to the Atlantic, waves still against your skin. Heat pulses, as if the ocean remembers its birth in volcanic vents. Your other hand brushes Europe. The Alps crumble into white powder. A tiny Napoleon flees the avalanche, hat askew. Knee-high army scrambling after. The mural darkens where you touch, continents dissolving into lapis lazuli puddles. German woodcut maps, often rotted from acidic inks, leaving behind continents shaped like fungal blooms. Retreat, and the world reassembles. Ships right themselves. The parrot resurfaces, preening in the Maldives. One caravel trails thread from its stern, a woolen wake, unraveling toward the horizon. Portuguese sailors used knitting to calculate knots per hour, dropping yarn overboard timed with sandglass trickles. You exhale, the mural absorbs your breath. Oceans swell with temporary tides. Somewhere, a ship's bell tolls, or maybe it's your wristwatch, unless you left it wedged in yesterday's teacup. The map makers lament loops in minuscule calligraphy. Along the equator, phrases repeating meridians are liars, and scale is a suggestion. When you finally step back, the wall shows only scored plaster. No silver, no ships, just the smell of zinc-white paint and a draft carrying the faint click of a compass closing. The compass's final click leaves your ears ringing until new sounds bleed through. Linen awnings snap like sails, stalls blooming from the stone floor. Vendors materialize behind counters, hands flickering as they arrange jars of honeyed light. Their mouths move, but the haggling hits your ears 3 seconds late, conversations outrunning their own echoes. You pass a spice stall, cinnamon sticks stacked like Lincoln logs. A droplet of saffron oil floats midair. It smears gold across your knuckle when you poke it. Roman grocers once displayed peppercorns in glass towers, each stolen grain punishable by hand severing. The threat's effectiveness tanked when everyone realized glove makers were the true crime lords. A fabric merchant smooths silk that ripples without touch, patterns shifting from paisley to polka dots. Historians still argue whether Byzantine shimmer cloth was actual nanotechnology or just drunk weavers spilling mercury. You sneeze, the nearest bolt transforms into burlap. The vendor glares, throws a sequined patch over the stain. A child's porcelain doll rides a copper coin like a carousel, its painted eyes tracking you. Dutch tulip bulbs traded for mansions in 1637 until the market crashed harder than a drunk stork. The doll pirouettes, coin edges sharp enough to slice memories. You pocket a fallen tulip petal. It melts into liquid credit card, plastic against your thigh. Stall 42 sells hourglasses filled with powdered marble. Discount if you guess the pharaoh, croaks the seller, his teeth click like abacus beads. You shrug. Hat Shep something. He rolls all 5 of his visible eyes. Turns out it's ground from Nefertiti's toenail clippings. Still cheaper than Whole Foods turmeric. At the Crossroads booth, a woman offers cups of liquid moonlight. Babylonian merchants sealed contracts with garlic cloves. Eternal deals, stinking up clay tablets. Her cup reflects not the moon, but Armstrong's 1969 boot print. You sip, cold slides down, carrying the static buzz of Apollo 11's lunar module comms. The market dims, stall colors draining into your cup. Coins here have no faces, just handprints. Peruvian traders used knotted ropes for math. Kipu ledgers some claim predicted eclipses. You toss one at a sock puppet theater. Roosevelt and Churchill reenact Yalta using finger symbols. Stalin's puppets missing, cleverly substituted with a grumpy raccoon. The tea vendor's sign says chamomile. 1 dream, peppermint, 2 nostalgias. You order jasmine, she demands 3 first kisses. The 1987 McDonald's 1 counts, she adds. Steam rises, forming your 3rd grade teacher's face, blowing on soup. Mid-sip, the liquid becomes ink. Spit it out, splotches bloom into tiny Rorschach trampolines. Mechanics here fix music boxes. One's guts spill springs, each coil singing a different Robin hit. A customer argues her fixer skewed the tempo. This should sting like 2002 dashboard confessional. Ottoman composers hid rebellion lyrics in lullabies. Imperial censors too sleepy to notice. The repairman shrugs, replaces her heart-shaped gears with hex nuts. A bookseller's using a glacier as a press, paperbacks freezing mid-sentence. You grab one titled Your Life, director's cut. Page 23 shows this moment, except you're wearing a fez. Antarctic explorers traded porn mags for penguin eggs, vitamin. A never tasted so awkward. Slam it shut. The book plays end credits over your embarrassed snort. The mask stands cheapest item. Mild regret, breathable polyester. Gold tier includes ancestral shame, W Bluetooth. You try the free sample. Suddenly recall your 3rd birthday cake's secret ingredient was salt. Mongol messengers wore wolf pelts to outrun guilt. The original express shipping. Toss it back. It dissolves into the particular gray of unread emails. Jars of fireflies double as disco balls. Insect Morse code spells by more jars. You shake one, they rearrange into OVERDRAFTED. 18th century Parisians rented glowworms as cocktail garnish until the luminous cholera rumor killed the vibe. A beetle taps out Sira, then flips you off with its antennae. The map stalls bestseller. Venice, but all the canals are bacon. Critics prefer their Detroit as Mayan pyramid city. Your heel catches on a carpet. It's weaving itself from unraveled cassette tapes. Pull too hard, Rick Astley starts crooning from the fringe. Last stalls empty, just a sign. Closed. Out haunting MYX. You press a palm to the counter. It vibrates with Britney's Toxic in minor key. Sumerian merchants sued ghosts for breach of contract. Court records cite ectoplasmic embezzlement. The wood remembers credit card numbers yours included, but you've already walked away. Mooncup buzz now fills your molars, market edges fraying into static. Vendors pack up their echoes, collapsing stalls into suitcases. That bergamot and camel dung scent resurfaces, clearly the hostelry's cheapest air freshener. A final booth appears old woman selling single matches. Light one, the flame holds long enough to whisper your cat misses you, then dies. Dawn licks the eastern vaults. Your shadow stretches toward exit arches, weighted with bootleg starlight, and 3 decades of car show jingles, last to vanish. The hourglass merchant, flicking marble, dust off his sleeves. He wipes his table, leaving 1 grain behind. Though everyone knows, Pharaoh sand got everywhere, even immortality's a myth, with cleanup fees. The market's last cobblestone dissolves underfoot, replaced by a bridge of pockmarked stone. Arches soar like a ribcage picked clean, each curve groaning under winds that shouldn't exist here. You press a palm to the parapet. Cold seeps up, but not from the rock. It's the chill of museum glass, the kind separating you from Babylonian tax receipts carved in cuneiform. 4 steps in, your shoelace unties itself. You crouch, fingers fumbling, as the wind rifles through your hair like a pickpocket. Someone etched Marcus was here in Latin near your knee, proving even Roman teens vandalized apocalyptic bridges. The graffiti glows faintly, red pigment, probably crushed from Pompeii's more stubborn tomatoes. Below, nothing. The chasm breathes, moist air slithering up to fog your ankles. Historians still bicker whether these crossings were spiritual offerings or just ancient civil engineers showing off. You hurl a pebble over the edge, it arcs, suspended like Armstrong's first lunar step before plunging. No sound follows, not even the tick of impact. Winds shift, carrying voices in reverse. Your 3rd grade critique of Jenny's finger painting. Trees aren't that green. Dummy slaps back, as you were right. And her brother still owes you $12. In medieval starry most, architects mixed eggshells into mortar for luck. Here, the stones are spackled with crumpled parking tickets and unsigned love letters. Halfway across, the bridge narrows to a blade's width. You sidestep, hip grazing a recessed alcove. Inside squats a stone hare missing 1 ear, its paw proffering an origami raven. Aztec couriers ran miles with message-filled knotted strings, fast enough that scholars swear the chords hummed. You take the bird. It unfolds, blank, because hindsight's cheaper than printer ink. The wind escalates to a scream, but not at you. It's berating the bridge itself. Still, using the same tired cobbles. Pathetic. Venetian gondoliers docked grievances on their city's bridge of sighs, but regrets here hang like English ivy. They claw your sleeves, leaving trails of powdered sugar and that one ex's cologne. A crack splits the path, a hairline fracture marathoning east to west. You straddle it, toes curling. Ottoman engineers built arches inverted during earthquakes. Gambling gravity would flip them upright. This fissure widens, spilling December 6th grade choir auditions, where you forgot the lyrics to "O Canada." The gap snaps shut, biting a button off your coat. 3 more steps, and the world tilts. Suddenly, you're hugging the bridge's underbelly, city lights clinging above like bioluminescent barnacles. Your pocket pebble reappears, now a plastic Monopoly thimble. 1970s. NYC engineers hung upside down under Brooklyn Bridge to scrape off centuries-old chewing gum. You spit, gravity catches it, recycling your saliva into rain over Machu Picchu. Ahead, the exit shimmers, not daylight, but the glow of a 1998 iMac booting up. Wind vomits its final secret, a grocery list from your 23rd birthday. Milk, eggs, melatonin, self-respect, the chasm's first and only souvenir. Your shadow detaches, leaps the rail, before getting yanked back like a leash. Across the void, the hourglass merchant leans on his counter. He raises a glass of something fizzy, salutes, then dissolves into the pixelated aftertaste of dial-up internet. The last cobblestone tastes of burnt toast, a sensation archaeologists traced to Byzantine dream bread rituals. You swallow anyway. Regrets molt like cicada skins, their hollow legs skittering into the abyss. When you step onto solid ground, the bridge exhales and forgets you entirely. The bridge's final exhale deposits you into a corridor stretching thinner than a politician's promises. Portraits cram the walls, oil-painted eyes tracking your shuffle. Renaissance artists used egg yolks to bind their pigments, resulting in stares that outlast empires. You pivot left, a dozen irises swivel like security cameras. Someone's painted Napoleon Bonaparte mid-sneeze, a detail even the Louvre would call uncharitable. Dust motes hang midair, frozen in the act of fleeing. A Victorian-era woman's portrait flutters her lace fan, each swing releasing the scent of mothballs and regret. Historians still argue whether her smirk means she poisoned 3 husbands or just really enjoyed croquet. Your elbow brushes a gilded frame. The Tudor king inside scowls, mouthing off with their appendage. The label clarifies. Henry VII's ghost writer, uncredited. Halfway down, the temperature drops like a mic at a bad roast. A child's portrait grips a wilting dandelion, their face blurred as a censored meme. Late 1800s photographers often painted open eyes onto portraits of the recently deceased, giving new meaning to family keepsakes. You lean closer, the dandelion seeds detach, tickling your nose with the ghost of allergies past. A velvet rope parts without touch, inviting you toward a larger canvas. Cleopatra lounges on her throne, snacking on figs. Vasari claimed she bathed in sour donkey milk, but this version's sipping an iced latte. Her asp bracelet hisses static, a soundbite stolen from a Walkman left in 1987. You nod. She rolls her kohl-rimmed eyes, then flips you off with a hieroglyphic middle finger. The frames grow tighter, canvas edges overlapping like scales. A moon-faced monk glows, halo doubling as a UFO abduction beam. Tibetan Thangka paintings often used crushed gemstones, making enlightenment literally priceless. His mandala spins, flinging saffron threads that stick to your sleeve. They smell of turmeric and existential dread. You halt before an ornate frame choked by ivy. The label reads your shadow, disrobed, but the space inside yawns empty. Scholars whisper Da Vinci rigged the Mona Lisa with pulleys, letting her vanish at will. A brush materializes in your hand, hog bristles still warm from Monet's trash can. Your reflection warps, body sharpening into charcoal lines. You sketch a single curl, the canvas sucks it in ravenous. Portraits rustle their subjects, abandoning tea parties and duels to crowd your periphery. A mounted knight's helmet flips up, revealing a mattress tag that says do not remove under penalty of law. Your pinky finger smudges, blurring into the canvas like a forgotten deadline. The gallery sighs, walls contracting like lungs, holding breath. The empty frame hums, a noise your dentist calls incipient cavity. Stepping back, you trip over a rogue cherub's chubby thigh. He mouths et tu, brute, through a mouthful of Renaissance-era Skittles. Your shadow peels off the floor, folding itself into the frame, button by button. It mouths something about your third-grade karate trophies. Silence congeals, broken by a wet plop. The brush dips itself in your left iris, swirling the color into paint. Aztec scribes documented history using cochineal bugs, crimson outlasting bone. You blink, one brown eye, one staring back in ultramarine. The monk's mandala unravels, stitching itself into your shadow's outline. Somewhere a frame clicks shut. The corridor narrows, walls closing in, until your shoulders graze cold stone. A well sprouts from the floor, its rim etched, with question marks worn smooth by trembling fingers. Roman engineers built spiral staircases into aqueducts, twisting paths for workers to descend into darkness. This one lacks stairs, just a frayed rope vanishing into ink-black water. You grip the crank, handle whining like a stepped-on accordion. 17 turns. The bucket emerges dripping liquid void. It shimmers, a puddle of half-formed syllables sloshing against copper. Experts think medieval villagers tossed carved turnips into sacred wells, each root a wish for rain or revenge. The water reflects your face, mouth moving out of sync, as if answering questions you haven't asked. Leaning closer, a droplet hits your tongue. Tastes of mercury and birthday cake. An 1896 expedition proclaimed Spain's Pazo de San Patrizio echoed, with voices reciting grocery lists in Aramaic. The bucket trembles, secrets straining against its rim. You scoop a handful, words wriggle like minnows, before dissolving into maybe. And what if? Historians still argue whether Neolithic well shafts stored grain or trapped echoes of sacrificial pleas. The rope jerks, dragging the bucket downward. You glimpse shapes in the water, crumbling castles, a wilting rose, your 6th grade teacher grading a math test. Retrieval feels illegal, like pocketing dandelion fluff from a museum exhibit. The crank handle snaps, sparking against stone. Swiss engineers in the 1500s used goat hair for emergency pulley repairs, a trick you're unprepared to replicate. A pebble falls from above, plinking the bucket's edge. The ripple freezes midair. A crystallized, why hovering like a chandelier. You swat it, fragments scatter, each shard replaying someone's final unspoken sentence. A man's voice stutters, "I should've." A woman's laugh cuts off mid. A child whispers, "Does the moon?" Your shadow leans over the well, stretching thin as parchment. It mimes writing, urging you to dip a finger. Sumerian scribes pressed cuneiform into clay, permanent as scars. You etch, where do lost hours go? Into the bucket's film, the water boils, spitting up a pocket watch clogged with salt. It ticks backward, each talk erasing 3 seconds of an argument you regret. A moth lands on the well's rim, wings dusted with syllables. Its proboscis unfurls, sipping spilled sentences. You catch a phrase, "The second time we danced," before it flies off, a bittersweet aftertaste lingering. The rope disintegrates, strands curling like burnt hair. Someone tied overhand knots every 9 inches, a mariner's habit from when this well was a ship's mast. Darkness rises, water lapping at your shoes. You kick off, scrambling onto the ledge, as the well exhales a sigh older than Latin. The bucket resurfaces, filled with mottled light. Inside floats a child's marble, swirling with galaxies. An archaeologist once found Viking gaming pieces in a Dublin cesspit, proof that even raiders needed bathroom distractions. The marble warms your palm, pulsing like a phantom heartbeat. Cracked veneer reveals a slip of papyrus. Inside, ask better questions. Ancient Alexandrian librarians indexed scrolls by the scent of their ink, sandalwood for tragedies, saffron for tax records. Your reflection stares back, now wearing Cleopatra's inky eyeliner, as the well seals itself with a wet pop. Stone grinds overhead, a sliver of torchlight piercing the dark. The corridor beyond smells of rain and something baking. You palm the marble, its weight shifted to the exact mass of a sparrow's apology. The tower stairs spiral upward, each step creaking underfoot like an unoiled hinge. Rain drums against narrow windows, glass warped into liquid patterns. At the summit, rows of desks await, frost clinging to quills like silver mold. Your marble hums, the papyrus slip inside whispering, Ask better questions through your palm. You touch a quill, its nib crusted with frozen ink. 17th century scribes used walrus ivory handles, carved with tiny dragons to scare off mistakes. The frost melts under your breath, ink pooling black as a starless midnight. Historians still argue whether Roman love letters were sealed with wax or the sender's tears. Words form without consent your hand, sketching a tower, matching the one you're in. Ancient Celts wrote curses on lead tablets, folded them, and tossed them into wells. The ink squirms, correcting your lines into a labyrinth of unlit corridors. An archaeologist in 1992 claimed to find Cleopatra's grocery list, pine nuts, honey, and a large asp, very fresh. A draft lifts your unfinished letter, it floats, revealing tomorrow's date in the watermark. Venetian spies once sent blank pages. Recipients held them over candles to reveal lemon juice secrets. Your ink blot morphs, a face you recognize but can't place. The quill shudders, carving your initials into the desk's edge without permission. Firelight glints on a drawer marked returns. Inside, a stack of envelopes addressed in your handwriting. 1940s pilots mailed V-mail letters, microfilmed to save cargo space for bullets. These bear no stamps, just wax seals shaped like closed eyes. One cracks open, a feather drifts out, stained indigo and smelling of low tide. The marble pulses, your unwanted words now squirming into a sentence. What did you bury instead? Frost creeps up your wrist, quills sprouting thorns that prickle memory. Tudor wives hid messages in embroidered handkerchiefs, a practice called stitch witching before the church banned it. The tower groans, walls tilting to slide your confession toward the edge. You lun, grabbing the parchment as it morphs into a map of childhood bedrooms. Ink bleeds through, revealing the number 17, circled in what might be rust. A museum in Oslo displays Viking-era feature phones, runestones carved with emojis of ships and sorrow. The quill snaps, staining your thumb with a regret from someone else's life. Letters swarm like ants, rearranging into a riddle. The more you rewrite me, the shorter I become. Answering a secret makes them scatter, only to regroup as your signature. Your breath fogs a window through it. Two figures walk away holding hands, too blurred to recognize. The desk's drawer slams, encasing your unsent replies in ice that glows faintly blue. A bell tolls, no visible source, vibrations unknotting your shoulders. Timekeeper monks in Tibet used yak bone clappers, their chimes tuned to the mountain's heartbeat. The frost thaws, ink drying into scars on the parchment. You pocket the least dangerous envelope, its wax seal now warm, pulsing like a swallowed sob. As you descend, the desks dissolve, wood grain unraveling into strands of unanswered whys. The marble hums softer, a lullaby now, as the smell of baking bread returns. Somewhere, a drawer rattles, waiting for the next guest's hand to slip, waiting to be filled with everything they'll never say. You round a corner and halt. A table stretches farther than sight allows, loaded with roasted figs, braided breads, wine darker than a raven's throat. Chairs scrape back, one jerking toward you like an eager dog. Medieval feasts used bread trenchers. As plates, guests tossed them to street beggars after soaking up gravy. A roasted peacock glares with gemstone eyes, its feathers sewn back on in precise alignment. Air shifts, an invisible hand rips off a drumstick. Victorian chefs sometimes stuffed birds with live frogs for surprise entertainment. You take a seat, the cushion sighs like a deflating accordion. Your goblet fills with wine, no pitcher in sight. Historians still argue whether Roman vomitoriums were exits or places to purge mid-feast. Figs vanish from the platter, bitten by teeth you can't see. You swipe a roll, it's warm, but leaves flowery fingerprints that aren't yours. A honeycomb oozes onto the tablecloth, beeswax forming letters. Eat what you dare. 16th century nuns preserved eels in honey, claimed they tasted like piety. You poke a fig, it bleeds port wine onto your thumb. Shadows deepen around empty chairs, laughter echoing as if down a long corridor. Plates clatter, cutlery etches angry scratches into silver trays. A pheasant carcass levitates, bones stripping themselves clean midair. Archaeologists found a Viking feast pit with 680 bones, but no human remains. You nibble bread braided like your grandmother's hair. It unravels into ash on your tongue. The wine swirls its surface, reflects faces you've glimpsed in train windows. A hiss, the peacock's head turns to follow you. Someone breathes garlic and myrrh against your neck. You spin, but the air's empty. A museum in Istanbul displays Byzantine toothpicks, carved from saintly finger bones. You stand, your chair topples with a crash. The table quiets. Every unseen guest stops mid-bite. A grape rolls into the void between place settings. It falls endlessly. Your pocket warms the unopened envelope from the tower humming. The largest fig splits open, revealing a key forged from dried rosemary. You reach, it crumbles to dust in your palm. 13th century cooks hid keys in pastry to smuggle prisoners' tools, the original skeleton key. Laughter resumes. A rib cage clatters into your lap like a grotesque napkin. You retreat backing into a curtained alcove. The banquet dims, chairs collapsing into shadows. Your stolen roll reappears in your hand, now green with mold. Scholars debate if Cleopatra's famed pearl was dissolved in vinegar, or if that's just Roman propaganda sour grapes. Moonlight leaks through a high window, the table now barren. Only the wine remains, one drop quivering at the rim of your abandoned goblet. It trembles, balances, then falls. The sound echoes like a door, closing 3 rooms away. Threads spill from the wooden loom, silk strands shimmering like frost under moonlight. Your fingers trail through them, October's crispness, July's honeyed heat, February's brittle chill, woven into single fibers. Medieval tapestries hid secret stitches, knotted prayers for protection against plagues and bad harvests. A shuttle darts left, then right, its carved wings clicking like a beetle trapped in a drawer. You catch a thread labeled Summer 1347. It burns your palm with phantom sunlight. Historians still argue whether the dancing mania that year was mass hysteria or ergotrotten, rye bread. The loom creaks, a sound like an old cat stretching. Strands twist into a storm cloud, stitched lightning frozen mid-zigzag. 18th century French courtiers wore thunderstorm patterns, believing the fabric could ward off bad weather. A skein of dandelion fluff unravels, seeds tickling your wrist as they float upward. One lodges in the rafters, glowing like a misplaced star. You spot a label dangling from the loom. Mend what's torn, or unravel what's mended. A moth flutters past, its wings stenciled with minuscule maps of Carthage. The air thickens with the scent of soaked earth. Threads now drip with silver. Your sleeve brushes against winter's portion. Icicle-sharp fibers snag the fabric. Norse weavers once plunged their looms into frozen lakes, claiming the ice made their tapestries sing. A chuckle escapes you until you realize the loom is humming 3 notes lower than a cello's groan. Autumn threads wind around your ankle, crunching like fallen leaves. You tug free, 3 strands snap, releasing the musk of apples left to rot. 16th century quack doctors prescribed seasoned stew boiling tapestries to drink as tea for melancholy. The shuttle pauses midair, as if waiting for your verdict on its work. You pluck a thread of spring rain. It beads on your fingertips, but doesn't wet them. A label flutters down. Unused material. Spanish flu funeral possessions. 1918. The loom shudders, weaving faster, until the fibers blur into a blur of wet wool and gunpowder. World War. I trenches saw soldiers knitting socks between battles, needles clicking faster than artillery fire. A section of the tapestry billows, depicting a Snowdon cabin. Smoke curls from the chimney, but when you lean closer, the smoke parts to reveal your own face sleeping. The shuttle zips past your ear, threading a hair it stole from your scalp. Mayan priests wove human hair into ritual garments, believing it trapped wandering spirits. You step back, heel crunching a dried maple seed. The loom's rhythm falters. A single thread sags like a dejected spiderweb. Your breath fogs, a section marked lost summers of childhood. The condensation warps the weave into a hopscotch grid. Victorian children played with season balls, glass orbs, containing curated leaves and insects for moral education. A strand of pollen gold silk brushes your cheek, triggering a sneeze that echoes absurdly loud. The loom halts, silence pooling like spilled syrup. 3 threads unravel on their own, coiling into a snake that slithers under the frame. Archaeologists debate whether Bronze Age thread spirals were decorative or prehistoric snakeskin worship. You reach for a cobalt blue thread, the exact shade of your first bicycle. It resists, then snaps, releasing the scent of library paste and waxy crayons. The shuttle leaps into motion, repairing the gap with stitches tight as piano wire. Your knees sink into a pile of discarded threads. They whisper against your skin, half-finished lullabies and apologies. Moonlight shifts. The tapestry now shows a city street under cherry blossoms. A figure that might be you walks away, hood up, hands in pockets. The linen frays at the edges, unraveling into moths that spiral toward a triangle of open window. Silk merchants in old Shanghai predicted monsoons by how their threads absorbed morning dew, but kept the technique secret. Your eyelids droop, the loom's rhythm merging with your pulse. A half-woven blizzard swirls, each snowflake a tiny mirror reflecting your fatigue. You swear the tapestry just whispered stay. But when you press your ear to the fabric, all you hear is the hum of seasons turning. The crypt's cold numbs your fingertips within seconds, but the air tastes strangely alive, like holding a mint on your tongue while breathing through a pine forest. Tombs line the walls, slim rectangles of slate etched with names and dates. Each bears two names divided by a dash: Alina Rashid, Ifa Kaido, Guillaume Sunjia. Historians still argue whether medieval paired burials symbolized marriage or marked bonds deeper than bloodlines. You kneel before a slab labeled Esther, Amber, its surface pitted by centuries. Brushing dust from the names, your palm lingers on the hyphen. The stone warms, a faint pulse radiating upward, as if answering your heartbeat. 6th century Armenian catacombs held breath tombs, chambers designed to amplify echoes into uncanny duets of the dead. Your own exhale bounces back slightly deeper, as though someone's sighing with you. A spider scuttles across Liabhin, Hassan's slab trailing silk over the dash. You lean closer, noticing tiny objects wedged in mortar cracks. A chess pawn, a curl of birch bark, a chicken wishbone fossilized by time. Some dual graves during the Black Death held memento anchors, everyday items to tether paired souls during resurrection. Your laugh startles the spider. Think they'd argue over who gets the good fork. The tomb beneath your hand throbs gently like a throat humming. You press your ear to the dash and freeze. Fabric rustles inside, a sound like linen sheets being smoothed before bed. Venetian nobles interred lovers with knitting needles, believing restless hands needed hobbies in the afterlife. A thread of warmth snakes around your wrist, pulling you toward the farthest crypt. Anahita, Felix's slab shines brighter, polished by countless touches. Their hyphen glows faintly, opal veins threading the stone. You trace it, and the crypt fills with overlapping whispers. A man murmuring in Latin, a woman singing in Persian, the words fusing midair. Archaeologists once found paired Macedonian skeletons clasping a single amphora, its wine long evaporated, handprints preserved in the clay. Your knees protest as you rise, chilled numbness giving way to pins and needles. 3 tombs along the back wall lack names their slates bearing only dashes. One oozes a tar-like substance, the reek of burnt honey, making your eyes water. Tudor plague diaries mention weeping tombs, believed to sweat out the sins of those denied last rites. A draft swirls, extinguishing your lantern. Darkness pools, thick and velvety, then a gasp of light, bioluminescent moss creeping across the ceiling like inverted stars. The dashes on the unnamed tombs begin to glow, pulsing in uneven rhythms. Your spine prickles not from fear, but the visceral sense of being weighed. 18th century duelists sometimes commissioned shared crypts before facing pistols at dawn, a morbid insurance policy. You fumble for the lantern, knuckles bumping something leathery. A journal sits atop Esther, Ammer's slab pages warped by moisture. Inside, a sketch of two hands clasped, one dark, one pale, their wrists bound by a braided cord. Marginal notes in Arabic and Occitan debate astronomical phases and whether tides affect ghostly visitations. A dried primrose crumbles at your touch, petals scattering like flakes of rust. Bells toll faintly, the sound seeping through stone. The crypt's temperature plummets, your breath frosting the journal's pages. When the mist clears, new text glistens on Anahita, Felix's slab, fresh carved letters reading. Carthaginian tombs occasionally grew new names, though scholars dismiss it as moisture erosion and wishful thinking. You press two fingers to the dash and feel the hum sync with your pulse, a third heartbeat thrumming beneath both. Something tugs your sleeve, a spectral finger of air urging you toward the entrance. You resist just for a breath, and the crypt exhales, a chorus of voices whispering not yet in a dozen extinct dialects. The lantern relights itself, flame swaying westward. As you retreat, your shadow stretches across the farthest tomb, merging with the dash that now glows like a blade held to a forge. Moonlight spills through the doorway, but when you glance back, the crypt has vanished. Only a patch of luminescent moss remains, pulsing in the shape of a hyphen. You pocket the crumbling primrose, its scent now sweet and sharp, like forgiveness, like a promise. Some bonds outlive their stones, whispers in the dark breath, shared across centuries. Neither alive nor gone, just paused dancing in the hyphen's fragile glow. Moonlight pools at your feet, guiding you up a spiraling stairwell worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims. The air thins, each breath tasting of cold wax and the metallic tang of starlight. A door creaks open, revealing a domed chamber where the ceiling has split like a pomegranate, its jagged edges framing a perfect circle of night sky. Dozens of chalk constellations sprawl across black velvet panels, their lines precise, yet smudged by thumbprints. You recognize Orion's belt, though someone's drawn an extra dagger at his hip. Galileo's trial by the Inquisition flashes through your mind. How he sketched Jupiter's moons under house arrest, redefining humanity's place in the cosmos. The stars here feel closer, close enough to smear with your sleeve. A brass telescope gleams, its eyepiece fogged with centuries of breath. You lean in expecting swirling galaxies, but the lens reveals only the back of your own head. Rude, you mutter, adjusting the focus. Your distant scalp blurs, revealing faint symbols etched into your hairline. Ancient Babylonian star maps often included hair constellations, believing lice carried messages from the gods. You resist the urge to scratch. The dome rotates, gears groaning like arthritic joints. A new panel slides into view, Ursa Major redrawn as a woolly mammoth. Historians still argue whether medieval Europeans mistook fossilized mammoth bones for dragon remains. You touch the chalk mammoth, and the stars shiver, rearranging into a flock of ibises. Ptolemy's lost treatise supposedly described a constellation zoo, though experts dismiss it as a drunk scribe's fantasy. Thin threads dangle from the dome, each tied to a different star. One brushes your ear, humming at the frequency of whale song. You tug it gently, and 3 stars pulse in unison. 6th century Tibetan monks reportedly strung diamond wires between mountaintops to catch shooting stars for divination. The thread snaps, coiling around your wrist like a bracelet of light. Dust motes swirl, forming a miniature Milky Way above a stone table. At its center, a glass vial holds what looks like black smoke. Scholars still debate whether dark matter is simply the universe forgetting to end certain sentences. You uncork the vial, and the smoke spills out, writing itself into a poem on the tabletop. It begins, Orion forgets his sandals, before evaporating. The telescope shifts, aiming itself at a cluster of stars shaped like a keyhole. Peering through, you glimpse a room with the same brass telescope pointed back at you. A figure waves, their features blurred, then vanishes. Danish nobleman Tycho Brahe once hosted an emperor using a 20-foot mechanical elk that dispensed wine, though most historians believe the elk wasn't actually clockwork. You wave back, then realize you're now in the keyhole star's viewfinder. A celestial draft blows, chalk lines erasing themselves. The ibises dissolve, the mammoth retreats, Orion sheathes his bonus dagger, the dome seals shut, plunging the room into blackness. Stars blossom beneath your feet, glowing fungi, mapping out Cassiopeia's throne. Your shadow detaches, climbing the wall to adjust the telescope with practiced ease. Scientists found a 30,000-year-old Neanderthal cave painting resembling the Pleiades, if you squint, and maybe smoke a little ritual hemp. The shadow beckons, pointing the telescope downward. You peer through and see the crypt from earlier, Anahita and Felix's, hyphen now pulsing in sync with your wrist thread. A moth lands on the lens, its wings patterned with zodiac signs. When it flies off, the crypt's gone, replaced by your childhood bedroom. The thread unravels, beads of light rolling under the door where you once hid from thunderstorms. Wax drips into iron holders, sculpting itself into tiny nuns holding candles. They chant in a language that dances between Latin and birdsong. You blow out a candle, and a nun salutes, melting into a puddle of vowels. Renaissance astronomers bribed monastery scribes to translate forbidden texts, often disguising star charts as hymns. The dome shudders, stars dimming one by one, until only the chalk keyhole remains. Through it, a colossal eye blinks, iris swirling with supernovae. You freeze, but it winks, then dissolves into stardust. As the first sliver of dawn stains the sky, your shadow reattaches, slightly off-center. The observatory walls begin to crumble, revealing a forest where trees grow upside down, roots cradling miniature galaxies. When you turn to leave, your foot knocks over the vial. The last wisp of smoke escapes, curling into a hyphen that floats toward the fading stars. You pocket a fallen chalk nub, its warmth mirroring the crypt's primrose. Somewhere, a door creaks shut, a telescope focuses, and another version of you glances backward, mouthing words lost to the velvet dark. The domed ceiling mends itself, stone sutures closing with a sigh. Your shadow lingers, quill in hand, adding a new constellation to the panels. Terra obscondita, L-A-N-D Chinese letter, hidden in the hyphen's glow. The stars have names for us too, whispered in reverse through ancient glass. You exit, the taste of chalk lingering, as the observatory dissolves into a half-remembered hymn. Morning birds mock your exhaustion, their songs sharp as telescope gears, yet your wrist still glows faintly, thread intact, as you climb the stairs to a room that shouldn't exist. The pilgrim's mantra echoes. Every observation alters the observer, while your shadow naps peacefully on the steps, cloaked in borrowed starlight. The door groans, its hinges choked with ivy grown from hymnbook pulp. Inside, pews of splintered oak face, an altar draped in indigo, its folds pooling like spilled ink. A silver chalice overflows at the center, liquid shadow dribbling over the rim, each drop hissing where it strikes stone. Centuries ago, monks shaped their mouths into perfect O's, not for holy reverence, but to project vowel-rich chants across cold stone. The air here tastes of damp parchment and myrrh, with a top note of espresso left to burn on a monastery hot plate. Voices rise from the empty pews, a fractured chord missing its third note. You hum the gap, and the chalice trembles, spilling more shadows across the floor. A 14th century abbess reportedly taught her bees to hum the Agnus Dei, their hive's hexagonal cells vibrating in B-flat. Your shoes stick to the tiles, each step peeling up with a sound like unsealed Velcro. 7 stained glass windows line the walls, depicting saints mid-sneeze, mid-fall, mid-sip moments before grace or disaster. The shadow liquid creeps toward your toes, forming a puddle that reflects not you, but a choir of candle flames. They sway, mouthing words you felt once during that half-remembered fever at age 9. Historians still argue whether the missing third note was heresy, or the scribe's quill running dry during a particularly juicy bit of gossip. You dip a finger into the chalice, expecting cold, but it's warm as bathwater left by a considerate stranger. The liquid coats your skin, writing a backward hymn along your veins. A hymnal lies open on the altar, its pages blank, except for doodles in the margins. Someone's sketched a mermaid wearing a bishop's mitre, her tail looped into a treble clef. You trace the ink, and the mermaid winks, flipping to a page filled with musical notation. The staff lines squirm like centipedes, notes morphing from quavers to tadpoles mid-measure. Pilots in World War II once mistook Gregorian chants on shortwave radios for encrypted enemy codes. You slam the book shut, and the chalice belches a smoke ring shaped like a Celtic cross. Shadows congeal into a priestly silhouette near the sacristy, holding a censer that swings in time with your heartbeat. It billows incense smelling of burnt toast and existential dread. You cough, a sound that echoes 7 times, the final echo arriving in the wrong key. Beneath a pew, a mouse nibbles a communion wafer, pausing to glare at you like you're the one trespassing. In 1523, a Lutheran reformer accidentally served cheese Danish instead of sacramental bread, sparking the brief but intense pastry schism. The chalice empties suddenly, liquid arcing upward to drench the altar cloth. The fabric stiffens, crumbling into ash that spells M-E-N-E, M-E-N-E-T-E-K-E-L-P-A-R-S-I-N, then rearranges into B back in 15 M-I-N-U-T-E-S. The cloaked figure gestures to a confessional, its curtain twitching, as if someone just exhaled behind it. You step inside, but the screen's gone, replaced by a wall scribbled with algebra equations. An eraser hangs from a string, swinging like a pendulum, counting down to pop quiz purgatory. Bless me, Father, for I have you begin. But the words snag on a splinter. A disembodied voice finishes your sentence, craved the silence between verses more than the hymn itself. The chalice refills, this time with something pale and frothy, tastes like Earl Grey tea brewed with Zoloft and glitter. Your teeth click against the rim, each sip leaving a snowflake-shaped stain. 7th century nuns fermented communion wine with hallucinogenic honey, though most accounts were scrubbed from Vatican records by a very nervous archivist. 3 flies buzz around your head, forming a shaky halo before dive-bombing the chalice. Their wings hum the opening bars of Amazing Grace, then sputter into static. You swat at them, knocking over the hymnal. It falls open to a page where the notes have fled, leaving behind tiny claw marks. Blue light bleeds through the eastern window, dawn infiltrating the chapel like a politely apologetic usher. The liquid in the chalice solidifies, cracking into obsidian shards that clatter across the floor. You pocket one, its edges rounded as a river stone. Years later, thistles sit on your desk, catching the light at odd angles while you shuffle bills and wonder why Mondays feel heavier here. The priestly shadow dissolves, its censer clanging against the tiles like a dropped dinner bell. A final chord shivers through the air, still missing that third note, as As the indigo altar cloth mends itself stitch by stitch, you exit sideways, avoiding the mouse now power napping in a paten, and nearly trip over a rake left by some slapstick saint. The door groans again, this time in the key of B minor, as the chapel shrinks behind you. Tomorrow's pilgrims will find the chalice full, the hymnal open to a fresh page, and a single fly conducting an invisible orchestra. Your shadow lags, still kneading the silence into something almost resembling peace. The stairs creak each step, groaning like a wooden dowel in a dehydrator. Below casks loom, their curved bellies labeled yesterdays, lightly aged in spidery script. One reads summer solstice, 1995, another, regrets, unfiltered. A cobweb brushes your ear, its architect long retired. Water clocks in pharaohs, courts measured hours with bronze bowls and drips. But here, time ferments. You drag a finger through dust, it coats your skin, 19 parts mildew. 1 part someone's pressed rose from 1743. The nearest cask smells of cedar and tennis, balls fresh from the can. You pry the cork free, it pops sound echoing like a lock disengaging. Memory rushes out, caffeine sharp, 4th grade cafeteria noise, the clatter of trays, that one kid humming the X-Files theme. Your fingers stick to the cask's rim, sap pulling at your skin like regret. 5 heartbeats later, the scene blurs, voices slow, words melting into syrup. Then the memory curdles. Smoke coils upward, taking the shape of a swing set, rusting under an incomplete moon. Across the room, a barrel labeled winter of discontent. Aged 18 years, skepticism prickles your neck, but curiosity wins. The cork disintegrates at your touch. Frost blooms on your lashes, the air reeks of diesel and nicotine. You're back on that Greyhound, 23 hours, into a 48-hour ride, seat vinyl cracking under your thighs. A stranger offers you earphones, Dylan's tangled up in blue, leaking like a confession. Historians still debate whether the ancient Chaldeans tracked time in spirals or straight lines. The memory shivers, edges charring, as the song skips into static. Smoke plumes twist into cursive forgotten, but not gone. Your boots crunch over puddled wax, 1,000 melted wishes. A squat cask, labeled first, lie sprouts mushrooms along its base. Open it, and the scent of chlorine stings your nose. Poolside concrete sears your feet. You're 7 again, telling mom you didn't push your brother. His soaking shirt clings, a second skin of doubt. The lie caramelizes on your tongue, brittle and too sweet. Licorice grows wild in Albanian valleys, but no plant produces a flavor this cloying. Smoke rises, thick as tar, dripping into a puddle that reflects your face, aged 50 years. A cask marked minor epiphanies. Batch 14 vibrates its staves, humming like a beehive. You thump it, the wood softens, yielding like a bruised peach. Inside, a flicker, your 16 reading Plath by flashlight, realizing poetry could be a crowbar for the skull. Your futon sags, notebook filled with lines you'll later later scribble out. The memory phrase, replaced by the sugary stink of a Shiraz left uncorked. Smoke curls, spelling this could have been a postcard before scattering. Near the cellar's heart, a cask wrapped in iron bands. Private, its label warns, ink smudged by thumbs. You lift the latch anyway, rush of salt air, a porch swing at dusk, her laugh dissolving into rain. Promises exchanged, thick as cream, now rancid. Historians love debating Cleopatra's perfume recipe, but no one mentions how heartbreak smells of burnt sage and overripe lemons. The memory coagulates, a film over milk, before boiling away. Smoke licks your wrists, scripting apologies in a language only your ribs understand. You back away, heel catching on a root. It's grown through the floor, gnarled as an arthritic hand. The casks murmur, their wood contracting like lungs. A vintage wisp escapes, playing hopscotch across your vision. You're 32, staring into an ultrasound screen, static, resolving into a pulse, like a tinny motel radio. The image shreds, ashen flakes catching in your throat. Saxon sundials used shadows to preach, but here, time is thief, archivist, and arsonist. Light slants through a high window, dusk laying its cheek against the cellar. You wipe your palms on your jeans, each finger sticky with residue. The door groans, a rusty off Wiedersehen, as you retreat upstairs. Behind you, smoke threads braid into a ladder, rung by rung, climbing toward what the casks won't confess. Tomorrow's pilgrims will find the first lye barrel slightly lighter, its mushrooms a little taller, and the air tasting of pennies left under tongues too long. The door clicks shut behind you, its latch softer than a moth's cough. Ahead, a velvet curtain glows, its frayed edges backlit by footlights. You hesitate, then pull the rope. The drapes part dust, motes pirouetting in the sudden light. A wooden chair dominates the stage, its legs bolted to the floor. No spotlight follows you, but shadows ripple in the seats beyond. Ancient Greek actors donned bronze masks to project whispers into avalanches of sound. Yet here, silence sticks like gum under a seat. You perch on the chair, its cane seat creaks a protest. A dim chandelier flickers, candle wax dribbling like frozen tears. The audience leans forward, silhouettes blurring into one ink-stained mass. Their hands rise, palms upturned, fingers twitching, as if plucking spiderwebs. You clear your throat. The sound amplifies, echoing like a marble in a cathedral. Performing isn't really The chair lurches, its legs screeching against the boards. You grip the armrests, nails digging into splinters. A script materializes, hovering at eye level. The title reads your life, abridged author credit, anonymous collaborators. Page 1 opens, a scene from your third grade recorder concert. The flute's screech replays, audible tinnitus. Historians still argue whether Renaissance jesters ever poisoned their punchlines, but you'd bet good money on yes. The curtain jerks, revealing a plywood set of your childhood kitchen. An actor wearing your face strides in, mouthing your lines with tragic aplomb. You wince, turns out your voice sounds like a kazoo played through a sock. The shadow audience vibrates, a soundless chuckle. That's not how it happened, you mutter. The actor freezes, glances at you, then pantomimes confusion. Your 12-year-old self drops a mug. The ceramic shatters into glitter. Mom enters, played by a marionette with tangled strings. Her voice booms, "Clean it up before your father." You stand chair toppling. She never said that. The stage darkens, props dissolving into smoke. The script flips to a later chapter, your first kiss rewritten as a slapstick routine. The actor mimes tripping, landing lips, first on a garden gnome. The shadows applaud, hands clapping like wind-blown newspaper. A spotlight pins you, sudden and hot. A mic descends, reeking of old breath mints. You glance at the exit. It's now a painted flat. The audience leans closer, breath collective and damp. Fine. You grip the mic. Let's try this. You recount the Greyhound ride memory from the casks, the Dylan song, the stranger's cracked headphones, the shadows still. Your voice firms, detail by stolen detail. The actor playing you shrinks, defeated, melting into the floorboards. Medieval mystery plays used ox blood for stage gore, but catharsis stains deeper. A new scene coalesces, a hospital waiting room. 2 chairs face each other, one empty. The script trembles, ink blurring. You approach the vacant seat, your reflection warped in its vinyl cushion. The audience holds its breath. You should have asked for help. You tell the empty chair. The lights dim, chasms opening beneath the stage. Centuries ago, theaters kept ghost lights burning to appease resident spirits. But this darkness feels allergic to mercy. A single bulb swings overhead, casting your shadow in triplicate. The exit door reappears, real this time, glimmering like a mirage. You step off stage, velvet brushing your shoulder. Behind you, the chair creaks, occupied by something that hums your forgotten laugh. The corridor stretches, walls papered with playbills, advertising tragedies you've dodged. Your hand finds the next doorknob, frosted glass etched with vines. It's chill, lingering long after you let go. The frosted knob melts under your palm, its chill seeping into the marrow. You push into air thick with the tang of ozone, like thunderstorm aftermath. Glass panes arch overhead, stained with fractures. Roses hang suspended, petals frozen mid-crumble. Ice veils each blossom, preserving their collapse in perfect detail. 17th century Dutch tulip, traders once froze bulbs to inflate scarcity, though none admit it now. Your breath fogs the closest pane. The condensation retreats, etching letters backward on the glass. Look closer. It reads in reverse, or maybe devil's snare. You lean in, nose nearly touching the ice. A petal cracks, sound like a snapped wishbone. Historians still argue whether Napoleon's lost army perished from Russian cold, or a secret order to catalog Arctic flora. You wander aisles of suspended decay, peonies caught mid-sigh. lilies bowing under crystalline shrouds. A strand of ivy creeps across your boot, leaves crunching to sugar. Frost isn't your friend, you warn, brushing it off. A workbench appears, strewn with tongs and vials of cobalt liquid. Instructions curl beneath a jar. Thaw gently, directions may vary. You uncork a vial, its scent smothers the room, honeysuckle and burnt hair. Something stirs in the far greenhouse, between camellias frozen in mid-bloom. A single bud pulses. Its ice casing creaks, fractures spreading like inverted roots. Victorian gardeners used steam pumps to force orchids into bloom for wealthy patrons, a practice that killed more plants than it pleased. This reversal feels kinder, ice retreating as petals spiral shut. A drop of meltwater hits your collar cold as a priest's confession. Above, the fractures knit themselves closed, glass healing, with a sound like teeth on tinfoil. The bud now rests tight, its secrets rolled inward. You pocket an ice fragment. It sears your thigh through the fabric. Some claim cryonics began with medieval alchemists freezing vipers to harvest revival elixirs, though most scholars dismiss it as moonshine pharmacology. The greenhouse hums, vibration rattling your molars. A pane cracks anew, revealing a garden beyond the glass. Trees bleed autumn, despite the eternal frost here, their leaves aflame. The ice in your pocket liquefies, hot as a stovetop coil. You drop it, steam hisses where it lands. Clever trick, you say, voice brittle. The roses shatter in unison, a symphony of splintering crystal. Shards hover swaying like jellyfish tendrils before reassembling. A sprig of edelweiss unfurls at your feet, its white petals edged in soot. You kneel, fingertips grazing fuzz as soft as a dormouse's ear. It crumbles, ash drifting upward to coat the ceiling. The bench creaks. A clay pot materializes, soil studded with frosted acorns. A label reads heartwood, 40 years aged, plant in moonless years only. You press a palm to the dirt. It contracts like a startled muscle. Wind howls through newly opened eaves, carrying the groan of shifting timber. The greenhouse isn't a shelter. You realize it's an hourglass. Each thaw speeds the collapse. The exit door stands ajar, its hinges furred with moss. You glance back once. The roses bloom fully now, dripping scarlet onto the ice. Their perfume follows you out, cloying and sweet as a childhood cough syrup. The corridor beyond smells of wet stone and something sharp, like envy made tangible. The corridor narrows, walls closing like a ribcage around your breath. Ahead, double doors grown open, oak bloated with centuries of damp. Inside, floor-to-ceiling shelves sag under scrolls, their edges crumbling like burnt parchment. The air tastes of lead type and vinegar, and archives sour incense. You reach for the nearest scroll, its fibers disintegrate at your touch. Ink bleeds upward, letters fleeing the page into the gloom. Experts think the Library of Alexandria housed 500,000 texts before its burning. though some argue that estimates inflated by ancient scholars flexing their cataloging skills. A draft stirs scrolls unravel like party streamers. Papyrus snakes around your wrist, its hieroglyphs blurring into stick figure doodles. Medieval monks sketched grumpy lions in Bible margins. One even wrote, "I hate parchment," beneath a psalter. But these scribbles feel purposeful. Hex signs, cartoon curses. You step over a puddle of liquid shadow. It parts to reveal a single legible phrase. And then the rest dissolves, ink pooling into the shape of a key. Shelves creak, shift, realign. A ladder made of brass and spider silk descends. Climbing feels like scaling a thought mid-formation, rungs bending under your weight. 3 floors up, a codex glows, silver clasps shaped like screaming faces. You pry it open, pages blank, except for one sentence. The queen died Tuesday, probably. Historians still argue whether the Hittite Empire collapsed due to drought or a really bad group chat. Dust motes swirl, form a woman's profile, then scatter. A sneeze builds in your sinuses. You clench, silence matters here. Something flutters against your neck, a scrap of vellum stuck with black wax. Burn this after reading, it commands. But the words rearrange into barn. This hast red eel. You pocket it. Bad advice tastes like salted caramel today. Below, an atlas lies splayed, its map of the Mediterranean, missing Sicily. Waves lap at the vacancy, tiny galleons fleeing the blank spot. 19th century sailors blamed missing islands on drunken cartographers, never considering they'd simply sunk. A rusted hourglass perches on a lectern. Sand flows upward. Iron filings within a line, spelling turn back, then bacon butt. The glass cracks, sand becomes steam. You find a quill, dip it in an inkwell. The nib curls away from parchment like a scared millipede. Fine, right on your palm instead. The ink spells Egyptian king, then shifts to eek. Spying gink. A shelf collapses, scrolls cascade. You catch one midair. Its linen wrapper peels to reveal your childhood diary's last entry. The page ends mid-sentence. I promise I'll never. Inkblot swallowing the vow. Lightning flashes. No window source, illuminating a stone tablet in the corner. Cuneiform indentations form a shopping list. 6 goats, 1 cedar boat, immortality elixir. Ask Namu for discount. Wind tears through, papers rise like startled pigeons. A scroll wrapper slaps your cheek. It's smeared with kiss-shaped lip-pucker stains. Sumerian love letters often included recipes, poems praising a lover's eyes, alongside instructions for barley stew. The floor quakes. A stone slab grinds aside, revealing steps spiraling into blackness. From below, a smell wafts up, wet wool and overripe peaches. The codex snaps shut, silver clasps biting your thumbnail. You suck the bead of blood, iron sharp on your tongue. One last scroll remains intact, gold thread binding its edges. Unrolled, it shows a banquet scene, guests blurred, their hands fused to wine cups. The caption reads the feast of continuing, but someone's scratched constipation beneath in charcoal. A drip hits your scalp wax from the ceiling candles. It hardens instantly, a translucent helmet. You shake it off. It shatters into alphabet blocks. Footsteps echo too rhythmic for your own. A shadow stretches across the room, yours, but holding a sword. The exit beckons, a slit of amber light in the far wall. The air thickens, scrolls dissolve into fireflies. They swarm your face, each insect a glowing punctuation mark. An M dash brushes your lip. It tastes of interrupted confessions. You sprint, dodge a falling ledger, leap over a puddle now boiling with inky tadpoles. The doorway's closer, its light the color of forgiven debts. Behind you, the archive exhales, shelves folding inward like a collapsing lung. A single scroll survives. It rolls to your feet. You grab it. The parchment whispers, "Remember the roses," then dissolves into dandelion fluff. The corridor beyond smells of cedar and November rain, and something faint, like a punchline forgotten mid-laugh. The corridor spills you into a circular chamber, walls plated in tarnished bronze, sconces claw upward, flames pooling beneath them like liquid copper defying gravity. Your shadow fractures. One version strides toward the far wall, the other staggers backward, both rippling like reflections in mercury. You press a palm against the nearest mirror. The surface yields like pond ice under a dragonfly. Roman smiths mixed tin and bronze for their mirrors, scouring them with crushed oyster shells for hours. Your breath fogs the metal when it clears. Your reflection wears a laurel crown crusted with frost. A flame drips, hisses against stone, and suddenly you're two. The forward you examines a mosaic floor, tesserae, depicting a bull leaper mid-somersault. Backward you studies the ceiling, a painted sky where constellations form faces you've glimpsed in old family albums. Your left hand itches. Backward you scratches their right. A shadowless laugh echoes. You can't tell which mouth it came from. Victorians hid lockets behind parlor mirrors. Notes to lovers folded into origami hummingbirds. Your forward self finds a hair-thin gap in the wall, fingertips brushing a scrap of parchment. Backward self hisses don't as the chamber rotates. Mirrors flip, flames now lick the ceiling. Backward you stumbles into forward you for a heartbeat. Your ribs hold double. The mosaic writhes, bull leaper, now a boy catching fireflies. Historians still argue whether the Nazca lines guided desert pilgrims or just really bored ancient kite flyers. You kneel, the floor's colder, where flames burned downward. A mosaic tile loosens underneath. A child's tooth rests in black honey. Forward you pockets it, backward you shakes their head. The walls constrict, bronze plates squealing like stepped-on mice. Flames gutter. Your split shadows merge into something three-armed, cyclopean. A sconce detaches, crawls along the wall on spider leg brackets. You follow, boots sticking to the floor as if it's freshly tarred. The flame reeks of singed hair, 18th century wig powder maybe. Ahead, A mirror frame holds only smoke. You wave a hand through your fingers, age 30 years, then rejuvenate, skin flickering like a zoetrope. Forward, you tries a joke. Selfies here need a disclaim. But backward you clamps their mouth shut. 3 flames coalesce into a woman's silhouette. She gestures toward a basalt arch. The air smells of struck matches and unwashed theater curtains. You step through and collide with your other self in total dark. Fumbling, you strike a tinderbox found in your pocket. The brief flare shows walls papered with playing cards, kings missing eyes, aces bleeding hearts. Backward you traces a queen's outline. She winks. Her crown reshapes itself into a duck. A chimney opens above. Cold moonlight slices the room. Forward, you spies a rope ladder, hemp fibers soft as worn linen. You climb rungs disintegrating beneath your grip until the top vanishes. Below, your other self waves, fingers dissolving into cinders. Your last foothold crumbles. You fall upward into starless night, the taste of burnt toast coating your tongue. Somewhere a bell tolls once, twice, then chokes on its own echo. Darkness solidifies into a corridor scented with candle wax and regret. You check your palm, the ink now reads eek, spying gink, letters squirming like headless caterpillars. A distant mirror shatters. Its last shards whisper, turn the page as they die. You exhale, your breath hangs frozen, a speech bubble without words. The next archway looms, carved with owls who have traded eyes for polished onyx. One hoots. It sounds suspiciously like a sneeze muffled by velvet. Forward is backward. Up tastes purple. The hall watches patient as a sundial buried in snow. You stumble into a room where time's been put through a wood chipper. Half-cobbled toys sprawl across workbenches, their guts spilling springs. A clockwork nightingale lies dissected gears, like tiny brass galaxies spilling from its ribcage. Your heel crushes a tin soldier, his paint still screaming Prussian blue into the sawdust. A carousel horse tilts nearby, one glass eye cracked, its mane reknotted with fishing line and spite. Historians still argue whether medieval monks built the first crank-powered prayer wheels or just found the click-clack soothing during sermons. You nudge a music box. It plays 3 blind mice backward, the notes curdling into something that prickles your molars. Dust motes swirl in a sunbeam from a high window, each fleck a frozen yawn. Napoleon's kid reportedly had a mechanical playroom. Soldiers that marched if you wound their spleen. You pick up a doll, missing both arms. Her porcelain head rotates 360 degrees, exorcist vibes on a nursery budget. Something beeps. Under a heap of lead elephants, a wind-up duck quivers, rubber bill gnawed by what you hope was a very ambitious termite. Its key juts from the side like an infected tooth. 4 turns, the duck waddles 3 inches, collapses, and emits a fart noise from World War I trench gramophones. Your laugh bounces off the walls, startling a family of spiders knitting hammocks between robot parts. A bulletin board drips with schematics, Egyptian king toy chariots powered by mouse treadmills. Marginal notes scream things like why won't the damned pyramid stay shut? You lean closer, the blueprint ink squirms, forming the word run before dissolving into coffee stains. The duck's gears grind again. You squat ear to its brass belly, hearing Morse code between the ticks. 3 dashes, 2 dots, the pattern repeats. Someone translated Poe's The Raven into purely mechanical hisses, once Exhibit 42 at the Museum of Unworkable Ideas. This duck's song feels heavier, like it's reciting your 3rd grade report card. A shadow looms, you spin, knocking over a jar of glass eyes. They roll in all directions, pupils dilating as if scandalized. The duck's final clang dies. Silence folds over the room, crinkling at the edges. Under the workbench, a notebook hides, pages stained with something that smells like licorice and panic. Scribbles detail a toy maker's obsession. Kinetic sculptures to mimic the soul's vibrations. Dipped into alchemy here, tried mixing mercury with moonlight. Last entry. Teacup pigs, incident underlined thrice. No further details. There's a dollhouse in the corner, shingles made of Domino's pizza coupons from 1997. Peering inside, you spot tiny furniture upholstered with Subway tokens. A minuscule clawfoot tub full of pencil shavings. The toilet flushes when you tap it, disgorging a single pearl that evaporates midair. The duck convulses, spits out a key shaped like a spinal column. It fits a trunk under the window. Inside, a battalion of porcelain ballerinas, each balanced on one scarred toe. Their music box guts play Debussy. If Debussy scored dental surgeries, you pocket a ballerina's detached arm. The joint smells of burnt vanilla. Centuries back, aristocrats hired live dwarves as human wind-up toys for parties dark. But hey, open bars fix most moral qualms. The arm twitches in your grip, pointing toward an alcove curtained with moth-eaten velvet. Inside, a cradle holding a faceless doll swaddled in copper wire. Its chest cavity glows, cradling a light bulb filled with fireflies. Wires snake into the wall, feeding a Tesla coil that doesn't so much hum as purr. You reach out. The duck explodes. Springs rain down, smacking your forehead with the petty vengeance of all unspooled mechanisms. The cradle's bulb flares, dies, plunging you into blackness that smells of hot solder. Stumbling back, you trip over something furry, a teddy bear missing its stuffing. Now just a skin suit slumped in existential crisis. Moonlight returns. The ballerinas have arranged themselves into an arrow pointing up. The ceiling's plaster cracks, revealing rafters strung with marionettes made from taxidermied sparrows. Their strings lead to a rusted crank chained to the far wall. You turn it. The sparrow puppets jerk to life, beaks opening in silent screams. One drops a scroll sealed with candle wax. You break it open. The note inside reads, "Wind the bird." Idiot in handwriting eerily like your 3rd grade teachers. The duck's carcass pulses, a final tremor, and stills. Its last gear holds an inscription. All repairs cost pieces of your childhood. Proceed. Somewhere, a bell chimes, or maybe a saucepan fell downstairs. Your fingers hover over the keyhole. The walls hold their breath, gears pause mid-ratchet, even the dust hangs suspended. You wind the key. It clicks once, twice, then snaps off in the lock. A single note escapes, middle C tinged with static. The sound a telephone makes when it forgets its purpose. The air tastes of salt and solder. You're standing on a dock that wasn't here 3 blinks ago. Moonlight slicks the planks, warps them into funhouse mirrors beneath your boots. The boat bobs ahead, hull stitched with gold patches that shine like misplaced dental work. History remembers the Vasa, a warship that sank faster than a toddler's sandcastle. Too many cannons, not enough common sense. This little dinghy's leaks glow brighter with every undignified gurgle. The oars feel wrong in your hands, dense as crowbars. Handles slick with something that's not quite oil. When you dip one into the water, it parts like mercury spooned from an antique thermometer. 19th century watchmakers drank mercury-laced tonics for intestinal clarity, a trend that died alongside its enthusiasts. Ripples spread, hardening into faces you swiped left on in past lives. One looks like your high school crush if he'd aged into a weeping Pieta sculpture. You row anyway. The boat creaks, each gold seam humming box cello, suite number 1 in dolphin frequencies. Maritime scholars still bicker over whether the Pharos lighthouse used mercury mirrors, or if that's just drunken sailor poetry. Doesn't matter now. Your oar smacks a floating pocket watch. Its hands spin backward, stripping years like layers of bad wallpaper. The far shore shimmers, a strip of beach littered with hourglasses instead of seashells. Pliny, the elder, swore mercury could transmute lead into gold, which explains his final words. Probably hold my wine. A wave sloshes over the bow, drops bead up. Roll toward the stern like obedient puppies. You catch one on your fingertip. It shows your reflection aged 94, mouthing "Don't eat the shrimp." Halfway across, the oars lock. The water thickens, a gelatinous crawl. Shapes stir beneath the surface, suitcase-smiling toddlers, dogs you forgot to walk, letters never mailed. A particularly insistent ripple forms your mother's face, but she's singing Prince's 1999 instead of lullabies. You jam the oar deeper. It strikes something soft. The boat lurches, throws you against a bench carved with initials you don't recognize. Under your palm, the wood pulses, a heartbeat synced to foghorns in the distance. 16th century sailors nailed horseshoes to masts for luck. This bench has a rusted IKEA Allen key instead. The water clears momentarily. You glimpse a sunken city below. Traffic lights blink red, green. Red fish dart through office windows, nibbling post-its. The boat jerks, drags itself toward a moss-furred pylon. Its hull kisses the shore with a sound like a vinyl record skipping. The hourglasses clatter. Sand inside isn't sand. It's powdered forget-me-nots, cigarette ash, and what might be the pulverized remains of every "I'll do it tomorrow." You step out. Shoe sinks into the beach up to the ankle. A hourglass rolls over, starts counting your breaths instead of minutes. Something glints in the dunes. A ship's wheel fused to an exercise bike. Pedaling makes the lighthouse flicker. Or maybe that's just the migraine from breathing in too much metaphor. 3 pumps, and the light steadies, reveals a path paved with sidewalk chalk. You follow it, soles smearing rainbows and hopscotch grids into something resembling footprints. At the dune's crest, a payphone rings, receiver sticky with maple syrup. You lift it. Waves hiss through the earpiece, then a voice like a slowed-down answering machine. Second chances are just first mistakes with better lighting. The line goes dead. When you turn, the boat's already drifting back, gold patches dimming, its hull trailing a wake of dissolving doorknobs. A breeze plucks at your sleeve, warm as a rebuttal. Somewhere behind the dunes, a dog barks in the key of G-flat. You pocket a handful of hourglass sand. It whispers through your fingers like a secret too light to keep. The rainbow smears underfoot, fade to chalk dust. You crest the dune to find a low stone villa ahead. Its walls bleed colors like a melted crayon box, each door a different hue. 17th century Venetians dyed their doors crimson to show off wealth. These portals glow too vividly for mere pigments. A jade green door thrums with market clatter. The scent of cardamom and rusted nails seeps through its keyhole. You press an ear to the wood. Someone's haggling over the price of a mongoose. Historians still argue whether Egyptian blue dye required actual crushed lapis or just a tax collector's urine. The handle burns, frost cold, you recoil. Next, a butter yellow door warped by heat, its brass knockers shaped like a flamingo mid-sneeze. Beyond it, glass shatters. Someone giggles. Honey drips molten through the frame. You wipe a glob on your sleeve. It hardens into amber, holding mosquito fossils. In 1922, Howard Carter's crew supposedly drank champagne laced with ancient honey. Diarrhea became a cultural exchange. The violet door vibrates, its surface slick with condensation. Behind it, 2 voices argue about neutron stars. One pitches upward, sounds like your college roommate after 3 espresso shots. Densities, just gravity's way of hugging too hard. The knob spins wildly. You sidestep as a teacup rockets through the wood, shatters at your feet. The indigo door stands ajar, a slit showing moonlit reeds and a lone egret. Your fingers brush the frame. Its size, wood grain rearranging into lines from a Pablo Neruda poem you skimmed once. 2 lovers' initials materialize, scratched over with nope in stick figure hieroglyphics. You pivot, freeze. A bone-white door now blocks the villa's exit, handle shaped like a femur. Your reflection warps in its pearlescent surface, hips too narrow, eyes set too far apart, a funfair mirror version of self. when Byzantine empresses exiled rivals. They'd install a white door facing the sea, a not-so-subtle hint. This one hums low and invasive, like a dentist's drill heard through floorboards. A cobalt door winks at the corridor's end, painted with silver swallows mid-flight. It smells of rain-washed seriousness. San Francisco's Winchester House had a door opening into empty air. Sarah Winchester claimed ghosts, demanded architectural pranks. This one's different. The keyhole exhales petrichor, that earthy sigh after first rain, which your brain insists on mispronouncing as petty choir every single time. You grasp the tarnished knob, skin sticking, metal whispering, no take-backsies. Beyond lies a room drenched in gray light, walls streaked with watercolor clouds. The floor's a mosaic of mismatched subway tiles. Lisbon meets Tokyo, meets a 1950s diner void of gum. A ceiling fan spins, blades slicing the damp air into neat thirds. Something crunches underfoot. You glance down. Moth wings, thousands crisp as communion wafers. They stir, rise, swirl into a miniature tornado that morphs into your third-grade teacher, mouthing, "Show your work." The wings collapse, scatter, reveal a clawfoot tub brimming with rainwater. A rubber duck floats upright, wearing a tiny crown. You dip a finger, ripples distort the room into a Francis Bacon painting. The duck quacks, voice suspiciously like Benedict Cumberbatch, reciting tax law. When you snatch it, water drains, reveals the tub's etched motto: regret is lighter when shared. The duck squirms, melts into a pocket watch, its hands spinning at the speed of awkward small talk. A draft slams the door. You spin, handle gone. The walls bleed moisture now, a Rorschach test of mildew stains. That rain smell deepens, carries a note of burnt toast. Overhead, the fan's pull chain sways, tied with a ribbon from a birthday gift you forgot to send. You yank the chain, lights dim. The tub gurgles, spews a vinyl record. Its label reads songs you hummed while the world burned. Side B, track 1. I'd like to teach the world to frown. The fan slows, each blade casting shadow puppet dinosaurs on the walls. Stegosaurus, Velociraptor. Your ex doing interpretive dance. The record player materializes, needle already spinning. You drop the vinyl, static hisses. Then a barbershop quartet harmonizes oops. I did it again in Elizabethan English. The tub faucet starts weeping tears that sizzle where they hit tile. You catch one, it evaporates, leaves a residue spelling admit nothing in Braille. Above the sink, a mirror fogs. You wipe it. A stranger's face appears, adjusts its tie, smiles with your teeth. Behind them, a chalkboard lists every password you've ever recycled. The stranger erases one, writes try harder, offers a salute. Their reflection ripples, becomes yours again. But now, you're wearing socks you definitely lost in 2017. The room tightens, walls creeping inward, ceiling fan dipping perilously low. You scramble, find a brass key duct taped under the sink, jab it into a crack in the tiles. A trapdoor shutters open, reveals stairs spiraling into a void smelling of photocopier toner. First step creaks, plays the opening riff of Stairway to Heaven backward. You hesitate, glance back. The room's pristine again, tub empty, fans still, no trace of ducks or disco dinosaurs. Only the rain smell persists, and the faint echo of your mother's voice, debating whether to buy zucchini. The key warms, shape-shifting into a paperclip. Above the door, a stained glass window flickers. It depicts Icarus mid-plunge, but his wings are post-it notes. The sun, a Starbucks logo. A shadow passes behind the glass too tall, limbs too jointed, carrying something that drips. Symphony of moist squelches. You choose the stairs. Fifth step down, wood splinters. Your foot plunges into chill nothingness. The stairwell bulbs buzz, die, relight as fireflies trapped in mason jars. Their glow catches graffiti. Helen was here for $12.93. The cake is poison. This is your last. The final words scratched out, replaced with a smiley face wearing your grandmother's glasses. At the bottom, a red door. Not the passionate scarlet of love, the matte crimson of old blood. Its knockers a severed hand, index finger raised in permanent shushing. The air tastes of library paste and existential dread. You press your palm to the wood. It pulses once, splits open, reveals a closet stuffed with winter coats. A fur collar brushes your neck, smelling of mothballs and regret. Beneath the hems, shoes all in your size, each pair caked with mud from countries that don't exist. You kneel, pluck a cowboy boot, its inside stained with cherry Kool-Aid. The heel clicks. A hidden compartment springs open, holds a Polaroid of you age 6, mid-sneeze, cheeks puffed, eyes squeezed shut. The closet light dies, returns as a flickering bulb. Coats shift. A sleeve grabs your wrist, yanks you into suffocating wool. You thrash, stumble back, knock over a vacuum cleaner from 1983. Its bag disgorges ticket stubs, chewed pens, a dried corsage. Every "I'll keep this just in case" you ever hoarded. You flee, bound up the stairs, burst into the rain-scented room. The door slams, lock clicks. A new keyhole forms, this one shaped like a question mark. Through it, a whisper. Funny thing about paths, they multiply when you stop looking. Outside the villa, the chalk path's gone. Dunes stretch empty. Hourglass sand spills from your pocket, forms an arrow pointing inland. Somewhere, a dog barks in C-sharp. You glance back. The cobalt door winks, its swallow sigil, now a origami crane mid-unfolding. The Allen key still jabs your thigh, rusted but warm. You walk, each step crushing powdered forget-me-nots. Their scent a plea you pretend not to hear. The air thickens. Granules of the dissolving hostelry prick your skin like static sparks. Stones liquefy, sluicing down walls in caramel streaks. The floor buckling into stalactites of half-melted quartz. 17th century Dutch sleep scholars believed porous walls absorbed dreams, claimed you could distill them into tea. Guess they weren't entirely wrong. The keeper materializes, robes now transparent as cobwebs, their iron lantern vomiting blacklight. Inside floats something that might be a moth or a shredded credit card receipt. They extend a pewter spoon, handle bent at the angle of your third-grade math teacher's disappointment. Honeyed dusk, they croak, the contents shimmering like molten graphite. You hesitate, remember Victorian insomniacs, chugged cough syrup laced with radium. The keeper's free hand twitches. Wallpaper peels itself into paper airplanes, collides midair in a miniature battle of Trafalgar. One biplane skids across your wrist, leaves a paper cut spelling RSVP. The spoon nears your lips, twilight tastes of burnt marshmallows and your aunt's perfume. Your toes curl, the floor tiles disintegrate into sugar cubes. Medieval peasants slept in 2 shifts, waking at midnight to gossip or pray. A fact historians use to shame your Netflix binges. The keeper tilts their head, crumbles like a sandcastle, reforms as your childhood optometrist. Retinas adjust faster than hearts. They murmur, plucking an eyelash from your cheek. Above the ceiling retracts. A kaleidoscope of moth-eaten constellations swims into focus. Cassiopeia's chair has a lemonade stain. Orion's belts unbuckled. Scholars still bicker whether Stonehenge's alignment charted star paths or just marked a really committed picnic spot. The keeper snaps. Stars rewind, rearrange into your middle school cafeteria's seating chart. You cough, twilight sludge coats your throat, vocal cords now buzzing like a theremin. A grandfather clock materializes, its pendulum a suspended yawn. Inside, photo negatives of every bed you've ever slept in flutter like ghostly laundry. The keeper winds the clock with your hair gears, grinding out Landslide by Fleetwood Mac in baritone. Beneath your feet, sugar becomes quicksand, each granule whispering a to-do list, item you'll never finish. Call the dentist, learn Excel, apologize to Kevin. The sand rises. Your left leg petrifies into marzipan. The keeper tuts, snaps their fingers. A flock of flamingo-shaped erasers dive bomb the quicksand. Mnemosyne's lesser-known flock. They quip wiping dream residue on their sleeve. A doorway fragments, threshold warping like a dolly clock. Beyond it, silence so dense it hums. The keeper presses something cold into your palm. A hotel keycard fused with an obsidian arrowhead. Checkout times scrawled in UV ink. When the cuckoo learns 3-part harmony, you pivot. The hostelry's now an origami mockery. Walls folded into cranes mid-flight. One paper bird perches on your shoulder, its beak full of clipped fingernails. The keeper unravels their body, a spool of film strip, showing your first bicycle crash on repeat. Sleep migrates westward. Their voice echoes from a drain pipe, chasing the parts of you still capable of blush. The keycard vibrates, edge splitting your thumb. A bead of blood floats upward. Gravitation's optional here. Blush spreads. A watercolor brews across the crumbling sky as the final stones evaporate into candy floss. Someone's forgotten gym sock drifts past, reeking of locker rooms and poor life choices. You raise the spoon's last droplet. It refracts a scene. You're 8 years old, asleep in a blanket fort, cookie crumbs on the pillow. The keeper's shadow looms, stirs the image into smoke. Rest isn't a place, they whisper, though their mouth's now just a charcoal smudge. It's what remains when the reference is thin. Your knees buckle, the ground rushes up, becomes a hammock, woven from lighthouse beams. Waves crash, each crest a sheet of cellophane, each trough full of unsent birthday cards. The keeper's lantern dims, its dying flicker spells amen in Morse code. You shut your eyes, nostrils full of library book dust and licorice. Somewhere, a spoon clatters, a sugar tsunami roars, a cuckoo mispronounces its own name. Your last thought catches fire, becomes a bookmark lodged between pages 600, and why bother? Darkness arrives not as an absence, but as a velvet cloth tossed over a cage. The end, morning bleeds through high windows, a buttery smear across your eyelids. The bird's cry isn't avian, it's the shriek of a 14th century cry to cur flute, unearthed in Burgundy last June. Historians still argue whether the instrument's sour notes were ceremonial or just medieval musicianship at its finest. Your fingers grope for bed linens, they're starch stiff, colder than a tax collector's handshake. The pillow holds no indent, no stray hairs, no fossilized drool Rorschachs. You sit up, spine crackling like a Vinland Sagariter unrolling vellum. That bird flute wails again. Its sound spirals into a teaspoon clutched in your fist. Huh. The spoon's handle curves like a leaner of Aquitaine's favorite hairpin if she dipped it in liquid nitrogen. Sunlight puddles on the floor, each golden slick reshapes itself into rejection, letters you never sent. One morphs into Cleopatra's lost treatise on dream interpretation, but where ibis-shaped shadows after the 3rd hour. You blink, it's just a water stain mocking your college GPA. A wardrobe leans against the far wall, its doors carved with puckered lips. Inside hangs a single robe spun from spider silk and whispered rumors. You shrug it on, the fabric clings like jealousy. 17th century nuns wore similar threads, though theirs were laced with dried nettles to humble the flesh. This one hums Bohemian Rhapsody in reverse when you scratch the collar. The window beckons, its leaded glass warped like celluloid film left in a car trunk. Outside, an orchard stretches, trees heavy with pomegranates and rotary phones. One fruit bursts, seeds spill out, numbered FFD 700, the hex code for gold. Renaissance alchemists would have traded their mothers for this, or at least their second best crucible. Your stomach growls, a sound architects once used to design cathedral acoustics. A table materializes, laid with quince jam, and a loaf scored with Fibonacci spirals. The butter knife flickers, sometimes steel, sometimes obsidian, sometimes your ex's passive-aggressive eyebrow raise. You spread jam. The toast disintegrates into monarch butterflies. Their wings taste of regret and Caustoera sea expeditions. A mirror leans against a pear tree, its surface rippling like the river Styx after light rain. Your reflection wears a crown of tumbleweed, eyes twin voids scripted with footnotes. Look closer. The footnote site discards grocery lists, and Mariah Carey's 1999 rider rental agreement. Scholars still debate whether Carey's glitter era was performance art or a cry for help. The bird flute screeches again. You lob a pomegranate. It transforms into a disco ball of Byzantium mid-arc. The shards scatter. Each facet replays your most awkward handshake. A shard pierces your heel, pumps out memories of learning to parallel park. 5 a.m., Brooklyn, Jesus, Karen. The curb's not a suggestion. You limp toward a gazebo, its latticework armature fused with the vertebrae of some lacquered leviathan. Inside a chessboard, pawns wear tiny PR guru name tags. Hi, I'm gaslighting. The black queen has your face. The white king's a photocopy of your third-grade teacher's left kneecap. A breeze delivers your childhood scent, melted crayons, and panic as the board resets. Medieval knights played chess with rules based on humoral theory. Checkmate required balancing the opponent's phlegm. You move a knight, it transforms into a Tinder date who quoted Nietzsche unironically. The disco ball shards orbit overhead, projecting security cam footage of your last birthday party. You're blowing candles, smiles strained, eyes screaming, why did I invite Darren from HR? The mirror across the orchard flashes, catchphrase, moisturize or perish. A well appears, its bucket brimming with lemonade and dog-eared poker chips. You drink, acidic sweetness erases the memory of your PIN number. The liquid hardens into a monocle. Peer through it. The gazebo's now a Victorian asylum. Your reflection strapped to a chaise lounge, dictating tweets to a stenographer with moth wings. The robe cinches tighter, spider silk, now barbed wire, disguised as friendship bracelets. You tear it off. It disintegrates into a snowdrift of permission, slips never signed. A door materializes in the Leviathan's ribcage, knob glowing like a reactor core. Through the keyhole, a hallway lined with every exit sign you've ever ignored. Touch the knob. It burns like the time you tried making creme brulee without a torch. The flute bird dive bombs, impales itself on the disco ball, explodes into a shower of Fran Drescher laugh tracks. Silence follows, thick as a Tudor-era doublet. You glance back at the bed. It's now a raft adrift in a carpet sea. The pillow waves, a white flag stitched with your initials. You realize the windows are gone, the orchard's a diorama, the ceiling a cyclorama of all your deleted selfies. A grandfather clock yawns, its face a mosaic of circadian rhythms charted by insomniac Icarus. The pendulum's a metronome set to the speed of 2 a.m. existentialism. Inside the clock, figures dance the Macarena at Marie Antoinette's last brunch. The keyhole door creaks, inhales, sucks the chessboard gazebo, and your left shoe into its maw. You grab the disco ball shard. It slices your palm, blood blossoms into a parachute silk. Wind lifts you, robe flapping like a failed annexation attempt, as the room collapses into an origami swan. It flies west, trailing a banner that reads RSVP, regrets only. Ground rushes up, a meadow of bioluminescent tax forms. You land ankles deep in W2's sprouting dandelions. A shadow approaches. It's you, holding a lantern stuffed with stolen street signs. Follow the yield to the dead end. Your twin whispers before dissolving into a puddle of GPS coordinates. You pocket a dandelion. Its seeds are tiny fortune cookies. Crumble one. The slip reads error 404, nap not found. The meadow shutters forms a staircase, ascending into a PDF of IKEA assembly instructions. Climb, steps creaking with the weight of unmade decisions. Halfway up, a toll booth, the attendants a conjoined twin of FOMO and YOLO. They demand payment in expired coupons. You offer the monocle, they melt into a puddle of froyo. The top step opens into your childhood bedroom, walls papered with Pokemon cards and passive aggression. A sock under the bed stirs, mutates into a therapist's clipboard. Rate your dissociation. It monotones. You pocket it, feeling oddly seen. The window here shows the stone hostelry, rebuilt in light bright colors. A figure waves, maybe the keeper, maybe your first Pinterest board. Their mouth moves, no sound, but you read the shape. Sleeps, just loading screen art. Your hand finds a desk, it's sticky, with Capri Sun residue. Open the drawer, a kaleidoscope forged from your baby teeth. Peer through, the hostelries in flames, each spark a misremembered birthday. The floor dissolves, you're falling through layers of cross-stitched timelines until a hammock woven from eulogies catches you. It smells of unsent love letters and diesel. Somewhere, a cuckoo gargles Vivaldi. Darkness peels back, not as an exit, but an intermission. The velvet curtains just your eyelid. Final bow withheld as the disco ball shards settle silent. The flute bird's jagged cry dissolves into a lullaby hummed through centuries. Your blood blossom parachute billows, catching a thermal of ghostly applause from the meadow's vanished audience. Tax-form grass wilts into velvet moss, each W2, now a petal dissolving on your tongue. The therapist's clipboard crumbles to ash. You taste burnt sugar and forgiveness. Your light bright hostelry flickers, its plastic pegs rearranging into constellations, even Icarus ignored. The kaleidoscope teeth click softly, your baby molars singing nursery rhymes in dead languages. No more shards, no chessboard battles, just the hammock's creak as it sways to the grandfather clock's surrendered heartbeat. The keyhole door shrinks, a dimming firefly trapped in amber resin. Your twin's lantern gutters out street signs, folding into paper cranes that nest in your hair. Fran Drescher's laughter unravels, a skein of fireflies stitching the night back together. You exhale, Capri Sun air sweetening, as Pokemon walls bleed into watercolor. That final pomegranate seed, swallowed by the stairwell's shadow, its hexcode gold, now just warm light licking your temples. The raft bed stills, carpet waves calming to pond ripples. Your robe of barbed wire, molted, replaced by moth-wing gauze, dipped in chamomile steam. Dandelion fortunes dissolve their warnings soft as eraser dust. No more GPS coordinates, just the keeper's light bright smile, winking through the dark. Let the pendulum stop, its metronome sweat cooling to dew under your lashes. The Macarena dancers freeze their joyous contortions, immortalized as dust motes. Your reflection unclasps the crown, tumbleweed disintegrates into feathers from a pillow you'll never fluff again. The velvet curtain sighs, a breath you've held since kindergarten show and tell. Sleep isn't loading screen art anymore. It's the cursor blinking patiently in the text field of tomorrow's dream draft. Let it pulse,